You are listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by machinists. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protein Machining, and this week I am very happy, and I'm so glad we were able to make it work finally, to welcome Eddie Riddell of Steele & Co. Engineering. How's it going, Eddie?
It's going very, very good. Yeah, it was about 6 months ago. He said, reached out and thought it'd be a good idea to come on. I was very stoked, so appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
People hear my side of the story, but I'm more than happy to waffle on about it.
Awesome. Well, for those who don't follow you, and if you don't, you definitely should follow Eddie, but if they don't follow you on social media or haven't seen what you do, what does Steele & Co. do? What do you guys specialize in? Highlights.
It's a really high view. So I'm a job shop. I started way back with by myself, built up a business with a few people, and then I've gone back down to just myself, and very, very high mix, low volume. I kind of take on a lot of jobs that a lot of people probably would say no to, but I'm a sucker for punishment. So and the business now is just myself and trying to get a work-life balance that's better. So that's pretty much the really high view of it.
Awesome. And then you're on the, I think, opposite side of Australia from other people that I've talked to, right? You're on the West Coast?
So I'm on the West Coast in Perth. Which is
okay.
As far as you can get from pretty much anywhere in the world. We're the most isolated city. So,
oh, wow.
Very, very long way to anywhere. I think the closest town's about 14 hours away, which is Adelaide. It's actually a little bit longer than that. But yeah, so we're way on the other side, and it's a very... it's not a massive city. We're about 2.5 million people, but we're highly, highly supported by and dependent on mining.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, then let's get into your backstory, because for anybody who hasn't heard it, you should go check out Eddie's Impractical Machinist episode. You got into some really interesting topics in your backstory that I wanted to kind of deep dive on a little more. Yep. And let's just get into how you got into manufacturing.
So I suppose it's just, it comes back to, starting off life. I was a very, very active building kind of kid, like yourself and stuff. It was highly focused around Lego and outside building tree houses and so forth. And I spent I feel like I had the golden era of childhood, because we had no devices. We were go outside and mum would make sure you'd be home by like sundown type thing. So spent a lot of time of my youth and growing up just getting out there and building stuff and exploring and running amok. But it was a really, really cool childhood in that sense. So I watched my parents go through their careers and build their careers. And I think the thing that started for me was getting into seeing engineering. So my dad was in the Air Force, and he did avionics, but then also had a real. He loved engineering. He loved the mechanical, the metal side of fabrication and machining. So he had a small lathe, well, actually a medium-sized lathe and a milling machine that rocked up on a truck one day that my mum had no idea about. And they went into our garage, and that's for me where it all started. I think because I saw him out there. Using his lathe and his mill to build components and do small things, and saw mum and dad working together in their little workshop and doing little odd jobs to get started. It's where my first cutting of the teeth. It's where I first learned to use a lathe and a mill. First, I think it was I must have been about 8 years old when my dad got me on the Colchester and started trying to cut material, but it's a very, very interesting start to that side of things.
That's so cool. To be introduced that young is, you were very lucky. Like, I wish I had been introduced to this stuff earlier even than I was. I was very lucky that my dad had a full woodworking shop in our garage. My parents have never been able to park in their garage for as long as I've been alive. Much to my mom's chagrin. But it meant that I was exposed to a lot of tools at a young age, but I can't even imagine, having a mill and a lathe and all of that too. How cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And my dad was my dad and mum were really focused on their careers, and to a good point. But we were lucky enough that Dad built us some really amazing things, and Mum really supported us in it. And like for instance, in their little, it would have been the 30 square meter garage they had. Obviously his workshop, building bits and pieces, and also helping mates with welding trailers together and all that. But he also he was very much into rock climbing. So he built a rock climbing wall in the workshop, and it kind of went across up the wall and across up the top and, around the stairs. And we got to enjoy time in the workshop with him while he was building away, while we'd climb. And he was, at his height, he actually came over to the States. He climbed a lot because originally I'm from New Zealand, so this is all in New Zealand. He climbed over in Australia quite a bit, and actually came over to Yosemite National Park and climbed the nose. So he actually did the 7 days climbing up the thing. So he always seems to push the limits and strive, and same to my mum. My mum always used to do that as well. So she was a nurse for 45 years, and she always you just saw that work ethic, and I definitely got that off them, just to get in and get it done. So I was real fortunate for that part of the upbringing.
How cool. So then, I mean, I know for me, growing up with all of those tools, I always knew I'd be making something, but it wasn't until much later that I knew, like, okay, manufacturing and machining was the way that I'm going to bring that into being. Like, at what point did you start seeing that as the path that you wanted to go down?
Well, I think, so it wasn't until later on. So I suppose for the first, call it up till age 12 or something, I was very interested in building stuff around the workshop, around home, with wood and what I could do with what I had, like hand saws and stuff. But it wasn't until I struggled quite a lot through school. So when I went to, that kind of stuff was just happening in the background, that building, but I went to school, primary school, and then I didn't really do very well in that. And then I went to like an intermediate school where I was shown more of what I'd been shown at home, where I had like the woodworking class, the metal class, and the sewing and cooking classes, and those outside of just normal maths and English and stuff. And I really strived in that. I really did really well in those making stuff with your hands. I really struggled with the maths and the Englishes, and so much so that a real low point in my life was I got held back in a year when I was like in intermediate, which is like, I don't know, call it 12, 13, that area. So I actually got held back a whole year and saw all my friends go up, and it was really demoralizing time. But what got me through that little part was the fact of building stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And I got, at the same time, I got into water polo as well in that same school. I suppose what happened was I went from pretty much building heaps of stuff to, I didn't do much after about 12 or 13, and moved through my teenage years. I was more focused on what teenagers do. Look, I've got my license as soon as I possibly could, which was 15, and got a car, and absolutely got into some serious strife with cars. Most guys do. I say guys because I don't think my daughters would be as stupid as I was in a car.
So were you still in New Zealand at that point, or were you in Australia?
Still in New Zealand. Still going through high school, and I got through high school, and I would say I scraped through high school, and got to the end of in New Zealand we have 7th form, which is the last year. So I finished 6th form. I scraped through that year, and I went to the 7th form. The first week at school was at camp. So you go to a camp, and then from there they kind of figure out how you're going to sit in school. And I was fortunate to be picked to do like a prefect type thing, like a group of people that just looks after the people in your cohort. But and I think definitely wasn't for my intelligence. It was more because I was very much trying to help everyone out at that stage. I enjoyed that part, but I got through that first camp, and then I just realized like I was going to struggle like hell through the last year. I don't think I was no way I was going to get into uni. So I thought, stuff it. I said, look, Mum, Dad, I want to leave school. And Mum was like, well, if you're leaving school, you have to have a job. That's the rules, So there was you could take months off or anything. No, you had to have a job if you lived under a roof. And she was very strict on that. So I walked on the week after camp. I walked down the main industrial area, and I just looked around, and I saw the manufacturing side of things, and I knew I had a decent amount of knowledge behind me from that. So I thought, stuff it. I'll give it a go, and I'll try and get an apprenticeship doing manufacturing. And I walked down, and within about, I don't know, 6-8 hours, I had a job. So I just walked down, knocked on doors, and I knocked on, I think, 4 or 5 engineering shops, and the fifth one was like, yep, if you turn up on Monday, we'll put you on apprenticeship and see how you go. And that was BMAC Engineering in Henderson, Auckland, which is will stick me for a long time, because at least they gave me a go. And I walked in there and on the Monday, and I just took the best attitude I possibly could. I didn't have all the skills, I had some, but I took the best attitude of like I was going to be the best, which is kind of arrogant, but it worked out well, because that was where I started. So I started by the fact that I just didn't think I was going to progress at school any further, and it was a struggle for me, for sure.
Okay, awesome. And so what did they start you out at? Was it a very typical entry-level job of sweeping the floors and all of that stuff, or?
Exactly that. So it was sweeping floors and using a bandsaw. That was my first 6 months there, and it was awesome because I learned almost nothing from that first part, because my dad had already taught me to sweep floors, and my dad had already taught me how to use a bandsaw. But the thing that I didn't realize that would be so important was I met a few people there that were similar age to me, and it created a friend network that wasn't high school based, because I struggled with friends in high school and you know, kind of fitting in, because I was a bit of a quirky kind of kid. But being in a workplace, I managed to strike a relationship with people there, and that friendship building over the first 6 months was really cool, because it embedded me. And I think that's really important in workplaces, to have like good people to bond with, because there's some shitty days, like we all have shitty days, but having the benefit of a friend network is really nice. So I built that over the first 6 months. And then the bosses that I had, there was 2 owners of the company, and one was a really, really hard ass, and the other one was just a hard ass. And the one that was a little bit easier said, you know, what skills do you have? I said, well, I've used a Colchester. He says, what do you mean you know what a Colchester is? And I said, well, my dad had a Colchester. He says, oh, so you know how to use the lathe? And I said, yeah. He says, well, if I put you on a lathe, are you going to kill yourself? And I said, I hope not. You know, like, so he says, well, we'll try you on a lathe. So I got put on a lathe, and the BMAC Engineering, one of the big things they did was they did heavy machinery parts, so large parts, but they also did a lot of rollers for conveyors for airports. So I don't know, 1 meter around about 100 mil in diameter, 2 tapered ends, and it comes out of like a varnished sealed pipe. So all you have to do is put the pipe up between centers. Put them up steady. Put a bearing journal on both ends, put them back in the lathe, and then just turn the taper on them. It's nothing fancy. I did another 6 months of just doing that.
Oh, geez.
So every day I went to school, it's a thing, and I'd dream for the day we had to go to tech classes or something like that through my apprenticeship, because it was terrible. But I'd come home with varnish all over me. It was one of those character building things. And as much at the time I thought it was a load of shit, it definitely showed you like to, you know, dig in and just get stuff done, and better things come. So that happened, and then from there I spent another year there at BMAC. So in New Zealand, apprenticeships are 4 years. So the second year I was there, I was still on that lathe, and they were giving me as much work as they could, but they had also had 25 tradesmen, and in New Zealand manufacturing was very cutthroat, and it was hard to teach people well. And my dad saw that, and at that stage my dad was just finishing up his career as he managed a large power company. So he'd just finished that, and he said, look, I want to semi-retire, and I want to, so this was around about when he was 40-ish, 45, and he said, I want to semi-retire, but I want to start in engineering shops, because he wanted to go back from management back into what he loved. So at that stage he said, look, would you come and work for me, and I'll finish your apprenticeship off. And that's how I got from going through like the first couple of years of my apprenticeship into working with my dad at that stage. So he started a company, and me and him started working together from that point.
That's amazing. And so how old were you when you transitioned to working for him?
I would have been I left school 16 and a half, 17. couple of years. It would have been just about 19, I think. 19 is when I started working for him.
So were you old enough at that point to not immediately butt heads with him? I'm trying to remember at 19 if I would have hated spending that much time with my dad or loved spending that much time with my dad.
I was excited because I knew that I would be given some opportunities I would never get. Also, never is not a long time. Some opportunities that I would struggle to get working for any other firm. So I saw there would be more responsibility, and as every 19, 20, any guy between 18 and 25, you think you know absolutely everything, and you're the best at it. Yeah, so I genuinely thought 2 years under my belt, I could do anything, and cockiness sometimes helps, sometimes hurting. But yes, I didn't butt heads with him, but that came later on. But I had enough excitement actually to want to make it work. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So then, where did it go from there? I mean, we still have a entire country move and then more. So where did that go?
So we started working together. He did the Preface of Aspects is the company he had for near on 20 years. He designed and built food and pharmaceutical machinery. So that's where the company lied. So it was like an OEM of a person came to him with a problem and he could create a solution for it. And he's a really intelligent guy, like hyper intelligent, and he's did a master's degree in business. He's managed companies of 400 or 500 people, and he came down to managing a company that was me and him, which was really fun. So he was a real systems-based guy. So he had every system under the belt you could think of, and big accounting systems for a two-man band. But he was very fastidious about that. So he started using Autodesk Inventor back in the day, and he started doing design, and I pretty much was in the workshop, which is a 12 by 6 shed on the back of his property in the middle of a rural part of New Zealand. And he had, at that stage, we just had his manual lathes and manual mills and a fab area, and that's where my fab side of stuff started coming in. So he'd come out, we'd need these parts made, and he would teach me how to make them. And then I got to a point really early on in my career where I was just making them by myself, and that was a lot of the stuff I've done has been self-taught because of that reason. I didn't have as much people helping me out in that sense. But that company, he grew that company, and he had a couple of people in the design office, an accountant, and there was about four people that were in the workshop, and I was kind of growing and supervising them. So it was a very young company, and it worked really well. So I worked 4 10-hour days, and so we did a 4-day work week from pretty much day dot. So that was really cool. I learned to get the 3 days off for the weekend, which is really nice. And
yeah, 410s is where it's at. That's like the best. Yeah.
Work-life balance. We'll get into that later, but yeah, it's work-life balance is so important. But it got to a point where I finished my apprenticeship, and I'd taken a lot of fab work and learned a lot about welding and stuff like that. I wanted to keep progressing myself, and I got in a real interesting position where the person I was dating at the time, all the people we were hanging around were her friends, were all from university. Everyone that we hung out was, and I was the only tradesman there. And unfortunately, I'm going to take it as more of my issue than their issue, but it really felt like I was a less of a person because I had a trade, and I wasn't as intelligent as them, and I wasn't in the same hierarchy as them. And I stupidly decided that I'd try, I don't know why now, looking back, I'd do an engineering degree. So I'm working full time, but I'm going to do an engineering degree at Auckland University. Now,
oh, wow.
I actually managed to get into Auckland University, which is like a top 50 university in the world. So it's quite a thing. I managed to get in there, but it was mainly because I was a mature age student, and at that stage I was 20 something. And I got in there, and I'm like, I'm going to give this a really good crack. But I had to do it kind of part time, so because the degree was going to take me like 6 years to do. So I would go into Auckland. I was living in the city at that stage, and I'd go into university at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd study, and then take my first like classes that happened to be in the morning, like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and then by 9 o'clock I'd be finished, and then I'd head off to work. So I'd drive all the way out of the city to where my dad's place was, and I'd work for another 8 hours there. So I was getting up at 5 and I was finishing at like 5 or 6 in the night. And that lasted all 2 semesters. Nearly scraped through the maths papers that I was taking. It just absolutely wrecked me, and I had to give up. There was no way I was going down. I felt like a bit of a failure at the point. Like I wasn't smart enough to do university, and it wasn't a great period of time, that part, because I just struggled. So that kind of led on to the fact that at that stage worked quite well. My dad decided to invest into CNC. So I think that caught my eye at that stage. So he brought I left the university thing to the side, realised it wasn't for me, and then he brought a 14 Ti robo drill. That was one of the most clapped out, oldest one you've ever found, and he brought it over from the States, sight unseen.
Jeez.
Unpacked it, and we started cutting parts on it. I as soon as and this is the foresight there, and the kind of where he comes from. So I have never learned G-code, and that's a detriment. I found out after owning the machine I have now, and the only G-codes I've ever written in my entire life is on the SMX I've got now. So,
which is a wild statement to say.
this is I was 17, 18 years ago. So we got this. So I've never written G-code, never learnt G-code, never. So he picked this up, and then he said to me, we're never going to write G-code, because G-code's going to make you fail. And he's never done CNC, but he could see the fact that punching numbers into a machine, there's a high risk of failure at that point. So he had Autosconfina and was saying, and I learned that really early on. So we went down, he found a company in New Zealand that was supplying CAM software, which is EdgeCam. Mm-hmm. And so he ordered, he got EdgeCam out. The guy, Graham, forget his last name, but I remember his first name, he came out and wrote a post for our 14 Ti and showed me how to start running parts on it. I did a 2-day training course on how to run parts on a CNC, and then we just started. And that's how my career started in CNC, is by a 14 Ti robo drill that was mainly cutting aluminium, because all the bracketry was aluminium. But it was fantastic. It was an old clapped out machine, but I still made parts, and we learned, and I figured out how to destroy cutters. And
you cannot kill a robo drill. Like, they are just about as bare bones as a CNC comes, and it's just reliable.
They are literally the Toyota of CNCs.
Yeah,
that is fantastic. So I went from that, and we started at that stage. I'd kind of left the dream of no, it wasn't even a dream. The idea of creating a higher person of myself by what other people the metrics were. And we just started, the business started really ramping up there. So I took a lot more of a leadership role, and starting to train other people coming through, having heaps of fun doing it.
Real quick before that, what did your typical day look like before the CNC showed up? Were you mostly fab, or was it mostly manual machining, or 50-50, or?
Mostly, I'd say 80-20 towards manual machining. So it was lots of laser cut components in between, like turn shafts and stuff like that. Like it was lots of parts that were flat joined together. That's how the machines were made, because we didn't have the ability to have a 3-dimensional. A bit of bending, but mostly turn components and mill components bolted between bits and pieces. So
then the CNC was revolutionary for your day-to-day then?
It was massively revolutionary. It was taking parts that would take, I don't know, you talk 6 or 7 parts in assembly or something, or 10 parts in assembly, and taking to one block. And it was like, whoa, like how cool is this thing? You know, like I can do all these different features on this thing, and it did really open up the design aspect for him, being able to design bigger and better machines and so forth.
Did you find that feeling, and that because it was so revolutionary, that it was kind of easy to distance yourself pretty quickly from college and all of that?
Absolutely. That's
awesome.
I think it was it was not the fact that it wasn't the fact that it was revolutionary as such, but it was the fact that it was something that I was good at. Like I could take a drawing and take it that was always model, take a model of that part and produce it. And like, it wasn't about producing it, it was how you were producing it. Like how much could you do it differently than someone else because it made it quicker or better or whatever. And that's been the focus or the basis of a lot of my CNC journey. It's not by watching how everyone else has done it, but how everyone else has done it and how can I add that 5% on top that makes it a little bit easier or a little bit more accurate or a little bit cheaper. You know, like, and that's how I've looked at a lot of stuff. I try and see what people have done and go, how can we just turn it a little bit? And I didn't have a huge amount to go off because there was not a lot of people doing CNC work. There was nothing on YouTube. There was nothing, you know, the only CNC work that I could see were people around me. And I was fortunate to, where I was growing up, where I was doing the work, is about half an hour away. There was a guy that had, at the time, this is more than 15 years ago, he had DMG 5-axis up in a garage, and he was producing some mold work for like yogurt pots and stuff. And I walked up there and I saw how he was doing. I was like, what the fuck? I was looking at these parts going, I'll never be able to build these type of parts. Like they're just, and the machinery he was making them was just amazing. And it was just him in a shop in the backyard, and that's always stuck with me. And but seeing how he's done things and a few other people, I was like, oh, I could change a bit. And it really solidified that I was reasonably good at this, and it's something I could really run at. And it's not something that a lot of people was doing in New Zealand back then in those type of machines. So, especially not in small job shops, big production shops had CNCs, but it really opened my eyes to what I could do.
That makes sense. So I imagine that really affected the bottom line of your dad's business as well. Did it grow and that's what pushed you guys to move to Australia, or I still have yet to see any signs of like, oh, we're unhappy where we are. Let's get out of here.
So that was about 5 years into working with Dad, and then for over the next 3 years, it was turbulent times. We grew the business. Well, he grew the business. I was part of the business, and we got to a point where that 14 TI wasn't good enough. So we sold that and brought a 21 DL robo drill. He loved robo drills. He loved Japanese stuff. So we went to the long version of the robo drill, which is great. And we had that for a year. And then I had my first proper incident. I think I explained it on another one, but I didn't have the retract height right. He was standing right next to me, and I'm the U-Butte machinist on this machine. And it came up a 25mm cutter and just rapided that way. And robo drills are really nice and quick. And this is where I'd never run a machine faster than 25% from this point. At 100% rapid, I went that way, and the tool went that way, and the job went that way.
Uh-huh.
And he spent the next 2 days on his back trying to polish out a fucking robo drill.
Oh, no.
Which didn't work, so we had to replace it. So that was the first time I'd done a spindle in my life. And I thought it would be the last.
I mean, we all hope that every single one of us is going to be the last, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was a high and low point because I was using a new modern bit of equipment and it was really working well. But from that point, it wasn't actually work-wise that I was doing really cool stuff. I was building really cool componentry. It was all for food and pharmaceutical. So it was really, when I say pharmaceutical, we're not talking about like implants or anything. We're talking about pill presses and there's actually quite a bit of pharma in New Zealand where it was bottle lines and pill packaging and that kind of stuff. So we built all those similar equipment around that, and it was really cool because it had to be high-end stuff, and they were prepared to pay for it. So the business grew really well for that. But I was on a rate, and this is nothing against my dad because my dad paid me what the rate was in New Zealand. To be fair, I probably got paid a margin above it, what a standard machine. So it wasn't on bad money, but fuck, it was hard to get ahead. Like New Zealand was really, really difficult to get ahead. All I wanted to do was buy a house because I knew that buying a house was how people seem to you've made it in New Zealand. I just could not get to a point where I could buy a house, and I was 9 years in, and with working with Dad, and our relationship was still really good. Saw him every day. There was actually nothing wrong with the relationship. So the question before, did we ever bump heads? Yes, we did, but it was always superficial. I had the foresight to see where he was coming from with a lot of things, and just respected that.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to a point where it was just before that, we had a client that didn't pay, and it was a really, really large client. And we had a meeting where I sat in with the meeting with him, and it was more of a learning opportunity for me. But we were sitting there, and it was about a couple $100,000 contract. So it was very big money for him. And the guy was like, basically lied directly to my dad's face, right in the meeting. And my dad's like, he knew that he was up shit without a creek, without a paddle. But unfortunately, he had an episode at that point, and he passed out. So in this meeting, we're in there, and he passed out and slumped in his seat, and like it turned out to be nothing more than actually an episode where he completely fainted and fell on the ground, and I was started to go into fight and flight mode because I'd done a lot of surf life saving, so I wanted to make sure he's right. But at that point, I realised, I was like, is this stress really worried? Everything turned fine. We ended up, he was fine, but it really was a changing point in my life. I was like, where the fuck is life going on here? Like, if clients are prepared to do this to you, and we're in New Zealand, we're not getting here. And it was a bit of a crescendo point. And over the next 6 months, I started thinking about things, about how I wanted to get ahead and what I could do, maybe leave the business or not. And then the real crux of it was my cousin Kyle came over from Perth. He came over, he lived here, was born and bred here, and came over to New Zealand with his partner at the time. And he took me and my partner at the time. We went out for dinner, and he said, "No, I've got this." And he pulls out his wallet, and he must have had like five or 10 grand in his wallet. I'm not kidding.
Oh my God.
Full hundreds. I'm like, how the fuck? You're like a couple of years younger than me, and I said, you must be running drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I've been working in the mines. I'm a boilermaker in the mines, and I've been working in the mines. You should come over. You get good money. And I was like how good money? He says like good money, and like 6 figures without a problem. And that was, for me, if I ever made 6 figures in my life, that was it. I was made. Like that was a big achievement in New Zealand. And this guy was 2 years younger than me. He would have been early 20s, and well and truly on 6 figures. And I said to my partner at the time, why don't we give it a go? And she was very hesitant at the time because she was pregnant with our first son, Finn.
Oh wow! And
he was he pretty much was a couple of months away from being born. He was born, so Kyle went home, and it's always stuck in my head. And Hayley was pregnant with Finn, and Finn was born, and I kind of just got back into the life of like going back to work and working that, and I was heavily involved with our son Finn, like helping raise him. And it was just like, we're still not ahead. We're still renting a place, and this has been 10 years now. Like we're coming up 10 years, and
having a kid doesn't make that any easier.
It's incredibly difficult. Having kids, if people don't realise that, it is an incredibly difficult part of life. It's absolutely lovely, but it is difficult. And how they don't come with manuals, I have no idea. But I was like, I'm a kid having a kid, and I was like mid-20s.
I mean, it's a good thing they don't come with manuals, because anybody would take one look and go, "Nope, not for me. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good where I am."
That's why you don't see the IKEA furniture manual first, because you'd never take it home.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I got to that, and it was just a low point. Again, there was a low point in business and a low point in life at some stage, because we're just being parents, and we said, look, let's fucking give it a go, and we made the decision to do it. And if anyone knows me and talk to me, they know me. When I make a decision, it's usually the next day that the decision's complete and everything's paid for and things. So I whipped into work, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. So I worked with my dad for 10 years, sat down and said to him, look, I'm leaving. And it was a proper hard call. Like, And hey, I'm sure he was happy, he was angry, he was all sorts of things, but it had to happen. And so we made the decision. I said, look, I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. I'll give you a couple of months because we've got to sort things out. And we took a couple of months, and the only thing that I knew is we had a place to rent over here because Kyle had just moved to what they call a regional job. So instead of being in Perth with his house, he had to be in a mine site the whole time. So his house was for rent, and it worked out really well. So we packed everything up into a 2x1 meter shipping crate, and they include all my measuring tools, all my engineering tools, and a bed. And we took me and my son, my wife, and her mum over to Perth, and I think we had $6,000 to our name when we came over. Like that was selling everything, like all cars, everything. So we came over. We had enough to keep us going for a couple of months, like if we didn't spend anything. So we got in. Kyle picked us up in the airport. I still remember it was funny as picked up from the airport. He, Finn and my wife at the stage got into a different car. I got into his massive Australian truck. He puts a beer onto my lap and cracks it like an Australian does, and we have a beer on the way home, and that's going to be any more fucking Australian if we tried. And we got back to his place, and he had set it all up for us. It was really, really nice to be able to have that soft landing. And he went off to work, and then on the Monday we went and got all our bits and pieces sorted, like our driver's license swapped over and a rental car. Mm-hmm. And I got a job 2 days later.
Wow.
So it took 2 days. It literally was in that week. I had a job working as a fitter. So in Australia, so it just happened like that. It was just like, and the whole idea was that we were only ever going to come to Australia for a year. We were going to come for a year and work for a year to get enough money to go back to New Zealand. And in my head, I was going to go back to New Zealand and either go back and work for my dad, but I'd have a house, have the experience working out in mining. But that didn't kind of pan out that way.
Yeah, clearly. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So then how did you find your way back into machining? You know, especially if you were in such a lucrative career, that's hard to get away from. Where'd you go next?
It is. So I worked through so in mining, it's pretty much all FIFO, so fly in, fly out. So Perth's the hub, and most of the mines are between an hour and 3 hours away, depending on a plane. So it's really difficult just to go and work in a mine. You can't just, like people say, I'm gonna go to Perth and I'm gonna work in a mine. I was exactly that person. But it doesn't work quite like that, especially if you want to get a really good locked-in job, like for one of the bigger companies like BHP or FMG, Rio, like those large mining companies. You have to be you have to really get in to know the people there to be able to get a proper job in that. And everyone else is just a contractor. So you work through contract labour, and if the iron ore price is up, you got a job. If you don't, you don't. So right. I ended up taking. I worked 6 months in Perth doing doing assembly of wheels and rail wheels and rail car dumpers. So people might not know what a rail car dumper is, but basically they take two carriages full of iron ore and they rotate that entire carriage upside down, and they tip all the iron ore out, and then they bring it back, and there's this whole mechanism. So I learned how to put all these things together.
Oh, cool.
There's a massive machine shop there. So I was just doing the fitting at that stage, and then from that, as a labour hire company, they said, look, we've got a job up in a mine site, and I really wanted to get up in a mine site because that's where the decent money is. And they said, look, I had a good breadth of skills, including welding and fabrication and machining, so both of those trades. But I still couldn't get anything because it wasn't recognised. So they don't believe that New Zealanders can do that kind of stuff or anywhere else in the world. You have to do it the Australian way.
Right.
So that's cool. So I said didn't have the skills. So they said, what? We've got a storeman's opportunity. You can be a storeman. Do you know much about crusher parts? And I was like, oh, absolutely. No, and they're like, yeah, no worries. You'll be sorting crusher parts. We just need someone that's like, yeah. And I said, yep, no. I literally, the day before the interview, Googled, and I was like, oh, yep, I know what a cone crusher is, a cone and everything. Walked into the interview and said, so what do you know about crushers? I said, well, I mostly know about cone crushers and these parts, but jaw crushers are this, and it was all shit. I read off fucking Google. I had no idea about these parts. I'm like, how hard could it be? Anyway, like, yeah, got you. You got the job. You're going to go up to site in a week's time. So I did all my inductions, and I went up and started on a 2-in-1, so 2 weeks on, 1 week off.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up there, and it was literally a storeman's role in a forklift, and it was got nothing to do with crusher parts. It was moving pallets around. And
no way.
It had nothing to do about it. It was literally the hardest part of the job was which pallet racking you had to go to. So I ended up being in the store for 6 months, and it was the fitters would be coming in. The people I'd want to be, the mechanical fitters, would be coming in to get their parts and going off and sitting there in the storeroom. I really want to just pull something apart and put something back together. It'd be really, really cool. And 6 months went past, and I was still doing it, but I was earning good money now, and we were able to buy a house, which what took me 10 years in New Zealand to not achieve, took us 6 months in Australia to achieve. So we were, it was amazing to be able to do that, to be honest, to buy our first house, which is like a cookie cutter spec house in the middle of a little estate, but it was ours. Yeah, we still had a mortgage on it, it was ours. So at that stage, I was like, this is amazing. And that's at the point, I think, that I knew that I was not going back to New Zealand after that 6 month point. Because we buy a house, and we bought a house, and we're like, well, the other thing in Perth that people probably know a little bit more about is the weather. The weather here is, so we have usually between 5 and 6 months of period of no rain at all. So very similar to Arizona, I presume.
Yeah.
Then we have about a couple of months of coldish weather and about 2 months of rain. And that's like proper rainy weather, and the weather here is pretty amazing. So that, I say, the work brought me here, the weather's kept me here, I think.
Okay.
So I was working in the mine sites, and I was working as a storeman, and unfortunately, and this is there's certain things that stick with me and like really stick with me in life, and it's usually around life and death. So like surf lifesaving, I've pulled out a few people. I've done lots of rescues, but I've pulled out a few people that haven't made it, and they've really, really stuck with me. And there's a few that just like you're just never going to forget. And then on site, we were on site one night, and there was an emergency call through the emergency radio saying, basically everyone carries a radio on site, and there's an emergency call, and there was someone had an accident. So you knew it was not good. Because everyone got called off the site, and the site got shut down.
Oh, so, wow.
On a mine site, an iron ore site that we were on is around about, at that time, it was around about $2 million an hour as they lose revenue. So they shut the entire site down, and at that stage, we all knew something was wrong. So we all got stood down, and then all the full-time workers for FMG got taken off site. The contract workers, most of us got taken off site, but the stores and a few other places had to stay there in case they needed stuff. So there was a couple of us on site. The site was closed down for 5 days because a guy called Kurt Williams unfortunately passed away. He got crushed with a big bit of machinery, so he died on site. And it was one of those moments in life that I really will never forget, because I knew the guy, and he was a really lovely guy. And to this day, and it's been... it's been 10 years since then, and every year it's always put up on Facebook and people remember him. But I was sitting in the storeroom, and it's horrible, but it's like opportunity from things like that you just can't pass up. And I was sitting in site in the store, and they'd done all the investigation, but they couldn't fly anyone up to start the plant again, unfortunately. And we were sitting there, and the mechanical supervisor came by and said, have you seen this person? And I hadn't seen it. And he says, well, we need to get this up. I said, well, I'm happy to help if you need it, because I'm here. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm a mechanical fitter and maintenance machinist by trade. And he says, well, he'd known me for a good 6 months at that stage. And he says, well, why are you here? I said, well, this is all that I could get as a job. They wouldn't recognize me. He says, well, look, if you're happy to help. And I said, yeah, I'm happy to help. So I went in, grabbed some tools, and we just a bunch of us started to get the machines up and running. We started getting the plant up and running. And that got up and running, and then I was due to fly out, and I flew back. I was supposed to fly back on the Friday, so I jumped on the plane, and the supervisor was there, and he says, oh, thanks very much. And he says, like, why is it do you want to work as a fit? I said, absolutely, but I couldn't get across because the labour hire company wouldn't recognise my trades. And he says, look, next swing coming up, I'll put you onto the crew and I'll see how you go, and we'll go. And I knew that was my opportunity. So next time I went up, the same as the first day I started at that BMAC, I just like put everything I possibly could into it. And to the point where I trailed a couple of guys around, but I didn't know anything about the machinery they had there because it was so big. It was just, everything was 10 times larger than I ever worked on. So I ended up starting just spending my lunch breaks going to, they've got like a library in one of the dongas there, which is like a room, and like a portable building, and I would go there and read all the manuals. So the manuals on the piece of machinery I do, and it was, and university YouTube, like just like going through YouTube and trying to figure out how things worked on it, and that made such a difference because then he actually saw that I actually cared about it, and about 3 months after me doing this part-time thing, they gave me a full-time job with FMG, which is the really hard thing to do, is getting one of those large companies getting a full-time job because they always want labour hire. So I managed to get a full-time gig with them, and that was fantastic. So I pretty much just started working full-time on a 8 and 6 roster. So I went from 2 weeks on, 1 week off to 8 days on, 6 days off. So it was a bit more family-friendly. And then that point's when I had my second son, Louis. So we had 2 kids at that stage. So that worked out really well, like work-life balance. It's better. I was still away, but it was still better.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being away for 2 weeks at a time, especially like when you just have a kid too. Like that would be horrible for sure.
It's very different. I'm lucky in the sense like oil and gas is a 4 and 4, 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. So you fly up to rigs and you're 4 weeks there. That's a long time away.
Yeah.
Lots happens in 4 weeks.
That's almost impossible to maintain a relationship at that if you were 4 and 4. Yeah, that's crazy.
The rate here is mental because of that reason.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're doing well in the mines. I'm still right now in your story, it sounds like you would be crazy to want to go off and do machining on your own or leave the mines at all or any of that. So let's keep going. Where's that connection?
Just before is the time away. So at this stage, it's a couple of years now that I've been working like week on, week off, and then we had a downturn in WA, and that whenever downturns happen, it's probably mild compared to a lot around the world, but it meant that the mine sites instantly look for ways of changing. So they went to a 2-and-1 roster. So they said, we'll go from 8 and 6 back to a 2-and-1, and I'm like, fuck, I can't go back to 2 weeks away, no way. But then at that stage, they go, we'll give you job share. So job share was actually really good. So basically take 2 jobs and combine them into one, and you do 2 weeks on and 4 weeks off. So you share that 2-and-1 with someone else. You're back to back. And at that stage, I was like, well, I can do that, but what else am I going to do? Am I going to find a job in Perth or something? And then I thought to myself, well, Mum and Dad did it. Like maybe I'll just go and get a lathe and a mill and I'll put it into my garage, and I'll take on odd jobs, and then I can just substitute. That's all it's going to be, is to substitute things. And so I took our 36 square meter or 6x6 garage, and I painted the floor, put 3-phase in, and which is really easy because the dome was only about 4 meters away, so you could put 3-phase in pretty easy. And I brought a Harrison lathe and a Thiel mill, which is a German mill, which was what there was around here. Oh no, sorry, they were over east, yeah, and it's what I could afford at the time. And I brought a TIG welder and built myself a bench. And from that, I was like, I'm going to start doing some engineering. And I still remember the first job I ever got, and I still have a photo around of the $20 that I charged for this job. It was to cut, of all the engineering jobs, it was to cut a wine barrel in half so someone could have a table and a chair out of a wine barrel. And if you want to know where Steelco started from me cutting a wine barrel in half because the lady could cut through the wood, but she couldn't cut through the middle. So I cut through a fucking wine barrel and made a table and a thing, and that was my first thing. I was like, all right, so I've done that. What am I going to do next? And then I saw someone advertising some wooden tables online, and I'm like, oh, I could build a stainless one. I know how to TIG weld stainless. I've been doing that for a long time back in New Zealand. So I got my TIG welder up, brought some material, and I TIG welded a stainless steel outdoor table together. And I put it on, well, it was Gumtree back then. It wasn't even Facebook Marketplace, but it sold. It sold for a decent amount. I was like, oh, okay. Someone actually brought this. All right, I'll build 2 more. So then I built 2 more, and then by the end of it, I'd be building probably 4 or 5 of these every break for about 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, okay, this is working pretty well. And I was doing 2 weeks on and 4 weeks off, and I was starting to building this fab business effectively. And I was welding these things together and just designing different tables that people, can we do a custom version? I said, yeah, we can do that. And just starting to learn that business side of things, because I'd seen my dad do it. I hadn't done it.
Right.
So I was starting to learn that terms and payment and all those fun parts that no one ever teaches you.
What were you called back then?
Steelco. So it was started, so the same name, same ABN. So that started in, 2006. So that was in 2016. So Steelco's been going for 11 years now.
Okay. Where's the name come from then?
So the name comes from, my son, Louis, his middle name's Steele, which is my grandfather's name, and that's Steele with an E at the end, which is, hindsight, a terrible name, because every time you have to say your email address, it's Steelco with an E, STEELECO, and it's by far, if I give any advice right now at this point, do not do a name that's hard to spell, or because it's a pain in the fucking ass.
Yep.
So
I am right there with you.
Sorry, Louis. I love your name, but now it's a pain in the ass now. So that's where it came from. His middle name is Steele. So it kind of worked with the cutting steel and all that stuff. And it's like a family type one that's run in the family for a long time.
Okay.
So yeah, so we just so we're kind of working 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off, and I'm building this business, and I end up doing a table for a lady, and it was, she's like, I knew she was a wealthy person, right? So I said, and at this stage I've been doing stuff for like just Joe Blogs. I knew she was wealthy, but she said, I want a table and chairs, but I want the wood to be sun faded and this perfect color white. And again, just trying to find ways. I'm not a woodworker at all, but I'm like, built the stainless steel table. How am I going to bleach these table legs or these things? So I grab a whole lot of wood, bolt it together, and then chuck it on my roof. And anyone knows of summer in Perth, it gets hot. So I just started doing some whitewashing on my roof in the middle of like a 38-degree day. And I make this table for her, and I send it. And I was actually really proud of this table and stuff. And I send it up. She's like, "You've done a really good job. It looks good. Can you build a fence?" And I was like, "I've never built a fence in my fucking life, but yeah." And this is the attitude. Yeah, absolutely. I can build a fence. I've done hundreds of them. So she walks out and she's like, "I want this fence that's blade fencing that's 1.8 high, that's this far, and they're like non-supported." And she's like, "Can you do it?" And I said, yeah, I can do that, 100%. And she's like, "Can you give me a quote?" So I walked home, had no idea I was going to do this. Absolutely no idea.
Oh no!
And then I started doing the numbers for her, and I was like, and most of the jobs I've been doing at this stage were like, I don't know, $1,000, like less than $1,000. Most of the jobs. I did this quote, and the quote came at like $56,000 for fencing and a gate.
Right.
No one in their right mind is going to pay $56,000 for fencing and a gate. I sent the quote in. 30 minutes later, she comes back and says, "Yeah, please go ahead. Let me know what the deposit is."
Oh no!
What the fuck? And I'm like, "Fuck, that's cool, but oh no." So I started like, I was just fucking. So I said, like, and this is where my payment terms come. I was like, I have to come up with payment terms. So. And these terms have never stopped in fabrication. They have stopped in machining because the machine's different. But in fabrication, my payment terms from the day I did this, I said, it's 50% up front, 30% before it goes to powder coating or installation, and 20% on the job completion. And that has saved me so many times in the past. It's unreal. That 50, 30, 20, and to this day, my brother still uses it in his workshop, his fabrication. But I took the 50% deposit, brought a welder with it, because I didn't have a welder big enough. And then designed a jig, got everything laser cut, and just built all these fence panels, put it in, and it worked mint. It really worked well. And that was a lot of the design stuff from Autodesk Inventor back in the day that I learnt, was just doing everything in 3D and having a really good basis to be able to go from there. So I built all the built that fence, and then it snowballed from there. So that person's builder saw because the house was just been finished, the builder saw the work, and the builder said, "Hey, look, can you do this fence and then this fence?" And I went from having a lot of free time in those 4 weeks to having no free time, working till 1 a.m, and then my wife was pregnant with the third kid, our third kid Lola, and I was still going away, and I went away, and it all kind of coincided. My mum and dad came over from New Zealand as a trip, and I was lucky enough because I kind of worked my way up through FMG, and I was at that stage off the tools, and I was doing isolations and shutdown procedures. So basically, whenever they needed to work on, you've got tens of thousands of different ways that you can shut down a plant. You have to build the isolation and be able to shut down the machine safely. But I got to a point where I was up there, and I had the opportunity to bring my dad up to site, and that's pretty rare. You can't usually just bring people up, but FMG allowed certain people to come up, and managed to get him up, which was pretty amazing. So he got to fly up to site and got to see all these big bits of equipment, and it was a great time. And he went home and he was like, "Oh, this is amazing, you've done really well," and it was really cool. But then he went home, I went home, I came back from my next swing, and I had a real bad incident. So I'd just been doing shutdowns, and I'd done a really, really long day, well and truly over the 12 hours you're allowed to do. And I stayed late to be able to de-isolate the plant because they're losing a lot of money. So I tried to do the right thing, as I always try and do the right thing. So I stayed, and we worked really hard, and we got the plant de-isolated, all safe, and it went up and running. And I jumped into my car, and I went the wrong way on the mine site. I went down the wrong road, effectively. So in a car park, you can only go one way. I went the wrong way. The superintendent saw, and me and him didn't see eye to eye, because I was very fixated on safety, because it was my job. He was, I want to get production run, and we had to work in the middle, but he saw me go the wrong way. He put a complaint in, and that was on the second day of my shift. Second day of my swing away, which I would have had another 8 days there, and then I instantly got stood down because of going the wrong way, and I had HR and two other. I basically had to go through the HR process, which they were on site. So I spent the next 2 days going through different meetings because I went the wrong way down the road. And we're talking 25 kilometres an hour. We're not talking like I was doing 100 kilometres down the road. This is a car park.
Right.
So I did what I do best and get fixated on things. So I walked into the room that had the manuals and started reading through all the procedure guidelines. They came in and they said, "Look, we're going to give you a first and final warning over this, and this will go on your record." And I said, "Look, I wasn't expecting this, but I don't think this is fair." So long story short, I ended up taking a support person in with me. I had my notes all written down and said to them, "Look," they said, "This is what we're going to give you." I said, "No, you've broken these procedures. You haven't followed your own rules by allowing me to work this late, all this kind of stuff. Your duty care." And then they walked away. It was really intimidating because they have 4 guys in there to me and my one support person. And it was a bully session, and I wasn't going to be bullied. And then at that stage, we'd always said that if one of us, me and my wife at the time, had said that it was enough is enough, and this time was pretty much me saying that enough, we'd just leave mining and go and do something else. And then that stage there, they came and said, "Look, we're prepared to not give you first and final, and we'll leave it at that." And I got my record cleaned, and then I pretty much handed my resignation to them on the spot. So I had it pre-written, and I said, "That's cool. So my record's clean," because that meant I could get into another mine site if I needed to.
Right.
But it was just a fuck you moment. Like, they were trying to justify their jobs and make my life difficult. And what was the point of it? And so I left at that point. I left the mine site and decided, fuck it, we'll give Steelco a full crack. And I started from there. And and then my daughter was born about a month later, Lola. And then so I had 3 kids. a business out of my out of my house, and working massive hours.
Oof.
And at that stage, we're like, look, we have to either go full leather with this, and I ended up renting a workshop up about 30 minutes. Oh, sorry, no, yeah, about 30 minutes away in O'Connor, which is where I am now, and started just going full leather on fabrication work at that stage. So I'd left the mines and going full time.
Wow. That's crazy. That is insane. So, again, the question begs, how do you get away from fabrication? Like, at every stage here, it seems like you're just, swimming in money, making fences. Why would you buy a mill or whatever you bought?
Yeah, so I did Steelco fabrication, shall we call it. I did that for 4 years, and I built that. I had a very, very big client base. I did some really, really cool work, and most of the work I did was kind of outside the box because I love designing stuff. So it was more, I didn't ever compete with people that can just go and put up a fence. I've usually competed with the people that didn't want to do the curves and the pizzazz and the stuff. And I ended up getting into doing, again, same thing. Someone seen that I'd put some arbors up and done some fencing. And they said, oh, can you build some steel doors and windows? And I said, yeah, sure, I've done plenty of that. Yeah, I can do that. And so I ended up doing a quote for them, and we won that contract, and I put my first steel windows and doors in, and that became a really big part of the business. So I started designing and installing steel windows and to office blocks and big high-end houses and stuff, and that worked out really well. And I grew the business by hiring people. But pretty much all the people I've hired, bar a couple, have been family. Mm-hmm. So I started with my brother-in-law, then my other brother-in-law, then my brother, all worked for me, and a couple of other people along the way. So I built the business up, and it just became bigger than Ben-Hur. You'd have wages going out that were crazy. I'd be trying to do the design, I'd be trying to do the fabrication, doing the install, doing the accounts, and doing everything myself, which is a failure looking back on it, but it just became just too much and I wasn't enjoying it. And it got to the point where I was having problems with, a couple of problems with payment. I talked about on the other one that I...
So this is the story that I didn't want to rehash too much from that episode, but I think this one is worth rehashing because it is such a badass move and so unhinged.
It was unhinged.
Yeah, like that. The pun unintended, but that worked out. So give us the story there.
Yeah, so the guy asked me to design and build some windows and doors for him after doing the fencing for him. And I'm a really big person on gut instinct, and gut tells me I should have never done this because he was always going to be a bad payer. But at that stage, I was feeding the beast. So I just needed the money coming in to make sure everyone was happy. So I designed and built them. I had 30-20, that 50-30-20 rule. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I followed that because I got the 50% up, did the windows, got the 30%, which he bitched and complained about. And at that stage, I should have realised this wasn't going to go well. So I finally got the 30% payment, which was a couple of weeks late, and I got the doors and put them in, and it got to the point where I put the doors in, and the 20% is due straight away. As long as it's signed off, it needs to be paid that night or the next day. It's not
right.
There's no terms, like long terms on that. And he was like, nah, I'm not happy with this, and this. So I went back and fixed this, and this, which was well and truly over the above and beyond, but. I like to think my name's worth something, so do the right thing, especially if it's not going to cost too much.
Right.
He refused to pay still, and I said to him, look, we need to pay or I'm going to remove the doors. And he says, you can't remove the doors. And I said, well, under my terms and conditions, which, again, another tip, make sure you get good terms and conditions because it does save your ass big time. And under my terms and conditions, I've got a remarkable clause, which means I can remove items even if they're installed into a building. So he didn't want to pay, so under the proviso that we were going around to look at something, I went round there, so I was allowed to be on the property because he's in. And at the same time, as I was looking at it, was actually a gate thing that I was looking for him. But because I was allowed on the property, I wasn't trespassing anything. I decided to remove the doors with an angle grinder. So took the hinges off, pulled. It was not all the doors, but it was 2. And that's well enough. So I took the hinges out and took them away, and you could imagine he wasn't super happy about it. But it's amazing how quickly someone will pay you if their house is breezy.
Oh yeah, that's wild. So did you, like, was this really a spur of the moment thing? Like, did you just happen to have it there and you're just like, you know what, fuck it, like, fuck this guy, I'm taking my doors back?
Yeah, it probably was. I wasn't feeling great on the day, I'll be honest. It was a few other things that hadn't gone quite well, so there was a bit of emotion in it. But I was well and prepared to take them away, and I just decided that was the day, because you can say you're going to do something, as like you have these terms and conditions and you say them, but actually doing them is a different thing sometimes.
Right.
So
yeah,
I at that day I thought, nah, fuck it. This is I'm going to draw a line in the sand. I drew a line in the sand, and I removed them. And when he had paid, I went back at no extra cost. I went back and put them back in. But it definitely drew, and it didn't get around to a lot of people, but it got around to enough people that I never really had a problem with payment after that. So I'm not.
That's so funny.
I'm fucking not. I'm only 5'9". I'm 5'10". I'm not big, but it's surprising what people do when you actually follow through. And
right.
Following through is important.
Oh, I mean, I can hear it. Yeah, at the bars and stuff. Like, Eddie's fucking crazy. He'll take your doors. Like, you don't want to mess with him.
Yeah. No, well, it didn't happen. But yeah. So and funny enough, at that point, I realised that I'd had fucking enough. Enough of doing lots of fab work. And the reason I did fab work is because it was really profitable. It was paying for all the bits and pieces, the lifestyle that I had at the time. And that's when my relationship started breaking. Well, not at that point, but my relationship wasn't great with my first wife. And we wanted different things. She wanted more of the flashy lifestyle, and that wasn't what I was interested in. And I was doing the fab work to support the lifestyle we had, which was high cost lifestyle. And one thing that really is interesting is that someone said to me after the fact, but it's funny how you have an income and you, if your income increases, it's usually your lifestyle tries to keep up with it.
Yeah.
So, smart people, it's taken me a very, very long time to become smart with money. I wish I was as smart with money as I was in my 20s, but I could have saved myself hundreds of thousands of dollars just buying stupid shit. So at that stage, shit was going south, and I was actually my dad was my dad's 60th birthday, and my mum had brought me and my brother tickets to go with my dad to go over to emo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so at this stage I was doing no machining again. I was only doing fab work and machining to support the thing, but he'd always want to go to emo, and Mum brought us tickets, me and my brother. Well, he's 2 years younger than me, and we were all in the same kind of fields. And at that stage, I said, look, I'm going to go over to emo, and we had issues about me going there for a period of time. And so I went to emo, and oh my God, it opened my eyes. I was like, look at these cool machines, all this cool stuff. And then I had been reinvigorated. Like the day that I'd been so drawn out, I was so so worn down from doing all the fab work and the amount of extra work I'd have to do because I had so many people, and it was really, really bringing me down. But then going through there was like me walking into my dad's workshop again, or into BUMAC for the first time. It was that reinvigor, like, this is what I want to get back into. I really enjoyed that. So I said to myself, I'm going to do machining.
And this was 2019 then?
Yeah, it would have been...
Just before COVID?
Yes. Yeah, just before COVID. Yeah, so that was exactly that. Yeah, and so I walked back, and I got back home I got separated a week later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, separated a week later, and then like at that point I said, I'm going to do machining. That's the point I decided I was going to start machining.
Wow. So you had mentioned that your brother is still doing fabrication. Was that the point that you said, like, hey, I want to give you this part of the business, or is that his own company that he's running?
It hadn't happened yet. So what had happened is I knew that I needed to keep the money coming in because I just got separated, and I knew to get the transition, I'd still need to do both. So I decided to make the decision there, and that was when just pretty much right after emo. And then a couple of months later, still doing fab work and kind of winding down my other life, selling houses and stuff like that. I met Marie, which is my wife now. And that was a massive pivotal point in my life, and a really positive one, because we just started dating. And I needed, because I had 3 kids, one thing I was really serious about was keeping like a meaningful part of their life. So I made a decision at a point to do like split custody. I really wanted 50-50 care. Mm-hmm. To do that, I needed to still have a workshop. I couldn't afford to have a house and have a workshop. So the workshop next to me came up for sale in the same complex. So I went to unit number 5, and then that one sold out, went to unit 3, and then that one there was working out, but unit 4 came up for sale. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll buy it. I'm going to buy it. I had a bit of cash coming out from the house that we had. So I went and made an offer, and they said, yep. And that was in December. And I said, look, I need a month or 2 to be able to put to get the money together. Can I rent it off you a month? But I want to build a container apartment inside this so I can have a house in there. And I ended up buying. We made a deal, and I paid a deposit. And I ended up over 5 weeks taking 2 40-foot shipping containers and building an apartment inside like an industrial unit. And that worked so amazingly, to the point where like I had a 4-bedroom apartment, so all my kids had a room. I had a room, had a place for them to play. We had a tramp that I used to like because it was a 6-meter high truss ceiling. We had a tramp that I used to winch up to the roof and then drop down. Had some monkey bars, really similar to when I grew up in my dad's workshop.
Right.
And, so they were having places they could play. I could have them 50% of the time and still do pickups and drop-offs and still do all the work I was doing because my machines would below me. But then unfortunately COVID hit. And I freaked out, I'll be honest. Like I just, everything was changing quite a bit. And I said to them, I can't afford to, I didn't want to go and put all this money into a workshop and then for the business to downturn stuff. I stepped back from it. I said, look, I know I've just built this massive apartment inside your unit, but I couldn't go through with it. I was really fortunate that 2 lovely people brought the unit underneath me and wanted to rent it back to me. So
no way.
Yeah. So, and not only that, when I said to them, look, I've built this apartment, but I'll take it out. And they said, no, we don't want you to take it out. We want it. And they said, how much do you want for it? Because all the stuff was in it, and there was no way I didn't want to take it out. It was too fucking hard to put 40-foot containers into a 12-meter. I had 50 mil when I turned the containers inside. There's a YouTube video of me building it. You'll see me trying to turn it, and it was a nightmare. But they said they'll buy it off me. I gave them a number, and they hit it straight away. They said, yep, we'll buy it, because they saw value in it, because they could rent it. So I rented that back, sold them back. And with that money that I used from the sale of that containers, I went and brought my first CNC lathe at that stage. So I'd gone from wanting to drop fab work, and I brought the CNC, and I brought it from a guy called Ross. He runs a engineering shop up from me called ARS, and he is probably by far one of the most important part of me going back into CNC. Not only did he have a lathe up there that he brought from someone that he was thinking about using, but he's 65, 67 now. He couldn't do it, so I said, look, I'll buy it and I'll do all your CNC work for you. And to this day, I still do all the CNC work, and we have a very, very good relationship.
Amazing.
He sold me that. It was a big Mitsubishi teach lathe with a Fagor controller, and I'd never fucking programmed on a G-code or anything, so I had to learn how to use a Fagor controller, which horrible machines. Absolutely horrible. it had a taper on it. It was a clapped out machine, but it got me started, and I managed to get a few jobs up and running. And I used to do is turning for him, and I was like, this is really cool. And the fab work was still doing okay. So I was like, oh, okay, I need a mill. So as everyone does, they jump on eBay. Going through eBay, and I find myself a VF2YT up there. I'm like, in the States, and it was in California. I'm like, that's my mill. So
I wanted to. So I remember you saying this on the Impractical Machinist episode, and now hearing your backstory, did your dad buying that RoboDrill sight unseen from the U.S. kind of implant that idea of like it is okay to just buy a massive piece of machinery from literally across the world and just import? Like, because to me that just sounds like the most anxiety-ridden, few months while I'm waiting to see if I just blew 30, 40, 50 grand on crap.
Yep. It is an absolutely fair way of feeling. So, absolutely, to answer your question, seeing my dad do it, said that it is possible. I did it a little bit more risky than my dad because I do things a little bit more risky and a bit more. I take a bit more from my mum in the sense of like she'll be right attitude. My mum is gold like that. She's always been extremely positive, and I take a lot of that from her. And so yeah, I knew it was possible, and a lot of the things I do in life, I really look at it as like, what is the absolute worst that's going to happen? Like, I get that machine over here and it is fucked. It like can't be used. It literally had a fire on the way here. I lose the money I put into it. Like, am I able to recover from that? And it's yes. And like this whole like be kind to people and they will be kind to you, and in business in general, you just got to take a punt. Like, God, just fucking give it a go. And I can say that with conviction because I did do that. I was in Marie's house because at that stage, me and Marie had started living together, but in her house, which is the house we're in right now.
She didn't want to live in your shop apartment? I'm shocked.
Hey, no, she liked that place. She liked it. She didn't like the fact that I made the hole between the two containers like a glass screen across the whole top. And then in the morning we'd wake up and like my bedroom had this big glass panel above it that would just shine light down through. She liked the apartment, but yeah, she was a top. She's always been a top bird. She helped me through so much of this, and there's nothing that Steele & Co would be in the machining side of things without her, because she was by far one of the only people that has just unconditionally supported me. Like she believes in me, and she's never questioned once. And not when we first got together, you probably wouldn't question anyone, but she's never questioned me about like the decisions I've made. She will absolutely tell me it straight, like if she thinks I'm a dick or
right.
But she has always been extremely supportive, and it makes such a difference when you have someone that's just so supportive of you and believes in you. So, and yeah, so I'm sitting in her house at like, I don't know, 10:30 at night, being a drug dealer, calling these dudes on the other side of the world, making this deal. Like, I want to ship it this way. How much are you going to take? And I'm talking to these guys in the States, and I'm still talking to the guy now. Actually, funny enough, the guy that sold me it. He was brilliant, and I made a deal and did the best due diligence I possibly could with the money and the time I had at the time. So had the videos come through and looked at the machine. I tried to look at all those little parts where is a guard's broken here, or best you can off photos, and he says, yeah, we came a deal, and I thought, fuck it, what's the worst that's going to happen? So I wired him 50 grand, and the machine turned up 7 weeks later.
Wild.
The only thing that I had problem with that machine was one Y-axis servo motor.
No way.
That was 4 years or 3 years later or something. That machine, that Haas. I have got so much respect for Haas machines. I think that the quality you get for the price you get, they are like I don't know, like the Honda of machines.
Right.
they just work. They do work. They're not the best, but for what I was doing, they're fantastic.
That's perfect.
It really is. Yeah, they're great.
100%.
And you know what? I hands down stand by this. By far the easiest to control.
Yeah.
Anyone can do the easiest control for someone to learn. I'd never learned a Haas in my life, never been on a Haas, and within a day I was making parts. And that's something to be said about the amount that they put out on YouTube and the amount of people that use them. A Haas machine is fantastic. So I brought that about about a year after, 6 months after having buying the lathe.
Okay.
And that rocked up and it gave me the ability to turn and mill at the same time. So it was fantastic. So that started growing that business even more.
Okay. And at that point, how much were you delegating and kind of pushing the fab side off of your plate?
So I was at that stage only doing the design. So I was my brother and my stepbrother were both doing all the fab work, and I was delegating all that stuff. I was still heavily reliant when coming to doing site measures and install, but all the actual welding and the fabrication, and that was done by my brother. And I split my workshop off into two and put like a plastic screen down so we can keep the dust and stuff out. So he was starting to really ramp up like his skills into that side of things. And then I was at that stage probably like a 70-30 split. So 70% was still coming from fab work. And I was starting to really get my footing into doing jobs for mining companies and a few other bits and pieces. And I got to a point where the lathe was really being problematic because it was only 8-station turret, no live tooling. It wasn't conducive for doing some of the parts, the more complex kind of turning parts. So I looked out again on eBay, as you do, and I found a Haas ST10 that was in, where was that? That was over east somewhere. I forget exactly where it was. Tennessee, I think it was. But made another deal with it, another late night deal. It sounded like it was a drug deal. Like on the phone, wired him another 55 grand, and 6 weeks later, our ST10Y turned up on my doorstep.
You gotta be kidding me!
Epic. that thing had done. It was a 2010, and it had done 600 hours.
No way.
Brand new. It had done. The only thing it had done is turning optics in aluminium.
That's insane. A 10-year-old machine at that point with 600. That's truly insane. That's like a demo machine from like a showroom, basically.
That's exactly right. So I picked up that, and then that rocked up, and then I had my 2 lathes and my mill, and it was still picking up. And by that stage, I'd probably gone to like 50-50 from fab to machining. So you can see like there's starting to be a shift here. So I was fortunate to have the income from something, whether it was my own job or a fab company, effectively, because it was separate, near on separate from the machining side.
So did that 50-50, was it because you were selling less fab and more machining, or was it just bringing up the machining side of it?
I was definitely winding down the fab side. So
okay.
I was taking some time to wind that. I knew that would take a couple of years to wind. I knew it would take a year. It took longer than that because I keep saying yes to things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that job's a bit lucrative. We'll take that.
Right.
And that's been a downfall for me. Is not the ability to just actually say no.
It's not just you, man.
No.
It's all of us. It's all business owners. You're in good company, I promise.
Yeah, it sounds it is. It's bloody hard, man. Because when you got the skills and someone has a need, and that sounds so stupid, but when you see someone's like, oh, really need to get this done, and you can make $1 through the door on the way through, it's really hard to say no to all that because I'm a person that really likes to help.
Right.
So, yeah. So I was definitely more focusing on wanting to do machining side and not putting any effort into the sales. So I pretty much from the day I brought that lathe, I stopped worrying about any sales and fabrication. So I just stopped it completely, and it was a natural attrition over time, but it took a long time for that to come off because we'd had quite a large name for ourselves for myself through the fab side.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same flip side, I'd also done no massive selling on the machining side, so that was naturally growing. So it was kind of natural growth,
okay.
Which the money side of things worked out okay. It was still a little bit tight through some points, but I got to a point where I had the 2 lathes in the mill, and I was starting to have problems with the mill in the sense like I had the servo drive drop out, and some of the parts weren't really great for it because they're just too big. So I made a justification in my head that because I need another mill, so I decided that I'd start going down the track, and I ended up looking new finally, and I was at a point where I could afford the repayments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into a relationship with Hiram Forbes, which is the large machine company here in Australia that sells Doosan, DN Solutions. And it came down to cost. Like I looked at Akuma, I looked at a whole lot of the brands, and then it just became cost effective to go with DN. And fuck me, I'm so happy I did, because I always stand by this. I think that you can have the best machines tool in the world. You can have a Willerman or a Hermler or anything, but if you don't have the service within 12 hours, it's pointless, because you're really reliant on that machine to work. And no matter what you say, a new machine's always going to have issues.
Yeah, every machine's always going to have issues. It's a mechanical thing. Like, it just happens. It's funny you say that, because I had Hermler here today doing just a PM on our old C250, and we were talking about that at lunch. I was like, it's like having a Ferrari but constantly being on the side of the road. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the best of the best. If like you're not driving it, it's not actually a car. Like, it's not something you can use. And same with machines.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's why I had basically two options at that stage. I could either go Akuma, or because Akuma has really good sales support. Maintenance support in WA,
mm-hmm.
and Doosan has really good support, but they've got really good support all around the country. And my main thing is, if I was going to buy a machine new, I needed to know that it would be able to repair it and maintain it here. So I ended up going down the Doosan route, and I met Lucas, which is my local service guy, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He's always given me the time of day, from the day when I had two or three second-hand machines in my workshop that didn't look like I was ever going to buy new. He always gave me the time of day, and I take a lot of respect for that, because it's easy for the big guys to get all the kudos and all the being looked after, but it shows a lot about someone's character when they take the same type of respect and care for someone that's completely small, tiny, like me.
Yep.
So I ended up putting my money towards him, and worked out really, really well. So I brought that D&M mill and put that in, which was, I had to chop the guard to get it underneath the containers, because it wasn't quite enough head height. I misread the drawing, so we managed to get it in. I mean, the servo motor to the bottom of the container was about 14 mil, I think it was. I actually had to cut the container underneath, so the plywood floor was about 14 mils away from the plywood floor when it did its tool change. So.
And which size was that? I'm forgetting. Was it the 42 or the 47 or 52?
So,
oh, okay.
5700. So which is what's 750? I can't remember. No, it's a meter by 700 or something. No, sorry. No, 700 by 500. Yeah, travel. And that was perfect, because it fitted the biggest part that I needed to make regularly on it. So instead of having to do two operations on my VF2, I could hit the thing in one hit. It had plenty of grunt to do all the big drilling, and the part that was going on it was a SAF plate that's 30 mil thick,
mm-hmm.
and SAF stainless. If anyone's worked with it, it's either you're either cutting it or you're not. So that machine is just was a beast. Like, they're just a big tough machine. You can just throw anything at them and they don't damage at all. So I had that for a few years, and then at that point, I got to like all 70-30 the opposite way. So the machining had really taken over, and the fab work, I was pretty much only keeping it on to keep my brother and another guy busy. Because and the other guy was, my other brother-in-law was pretty much helping me in the machine shop most of the time at that stage. So it's flipped over, and at that stage, I brought that, and it'd been another year goes past, and I also got over, nothing against my brother or my brother-in-law, but I'm sick and tired of having to deal with employees. Like, their problems are always your problems, and it is what it is. So my brother and me, it came up that there was a workshop across the road from us, and because at this stage I'm still renting the workshop I'm in at the moment, and there was an opportunity to buy the workshop across from us. And I said to my brother, look, I was in the position I could do it. I probably could scrape through to get it done, but it was a lot easier to have two of us. So I said, look, do you want to do this together? We'll buy the workshop together. We'll split it down the middle. I'll do the machining, and then you take on all the fab clients, and I'll start feeding you all the fab clients, and you can start creating something of your own. Like instead of working for me, work for yourself. And at that stage, he said stuff it. So he had some cash saved. I had some cash saved, enough to buy the workshop. So we brought the workshop and then literally split it down the middle, and made two beautiful little spaces. And he started taking the fab work on, and to his credit, like at the start, I fed him a lot of the work that was coming through, but he's taken that big time and like properly taken it to his own thing. So I have now nothing to do with his side of things now, and he's driving that, and the fab side's completely gone down. And at that stage, natural attrition again. My brother-in-law stopped working for me, and I just had pretty much since then for the last 2 years, I've just had like not contract labour, like casual labour that comes in, and I've got a handful of people. I go, oh, do you want a couple of hours this week to come and feed this machine? And that's how that's happened. So pretty much for the last 2 years, it's just been myself now.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I guess, we've got a ton of questions about it, but let's get into the big change. Going to, selling all the machines off, getting the mill turn. That's when you have machines you really love, 3 of them, to just be like, I'd feel so nervous getting rid of that kind of redundancy, to just go down to one big payment machine. All of that's included in that. What made you do that decision?
So it was I still remember it was about 2 years ago. The DN Solutions brought out the DNX. It was about the middle of the year. And I saw it come out, and here in Forbes sent a flyer out saying, this is our new Buick mill turn, cost effective to get into it. And I'd heard a bit about multitasking machines. I was dead set that I was going to go for 5-axis, probably a DVF 5000 with a pallet board. So I got one of those quoted up, and that came out about $500,000 for a DBF, and which is Australian dollars. But I looked at that, and I was working at that stage. I'd sold all my older machines, and I brought a DNT lathe from Doosan. So I had a brand new lathe and near on brand new mill, a couple-year-old mill. So I had good quality machines that were very reliable. Like you can't knock them. Doosan do as you're on again the Toyota or fucking thing. They're not super fancy, but they are just bulletproof.
Yeah, well, they've been making lathes forever too. Like since it was Daewoo and all of that stuff that they bought it and then absorbed. So
yeah, the lathes are absolutely fantastic. They're right up there with the Kima in my mind. But I started looking at it, and the thing that was killing me is I was still having to have lots of labour coming in to feed the machines. And I had a live till lathe, but it was still problematic to set up because I hadn't gone for the sub spindle, which I do regret doing now. I was thinking, how can I get more time away from the business? Because my kids, so I've got 3 kids biologically myself, but we've amalgamated our family now because me and Maria are married, and I've got 2 daughters from her as well. So we've got 5 kids between us, which is busy. And my 5 kids are they're all exactly a year apart. So there's 5 years between them. So it's a very, very busy household. You live with me now, but it's just 2 years ago I started really thinking about I started really, really looking at work-life balance. So I thought, how can I get more time away from home and not having to worry about doing multiple machines and so forth? And I thought to myself, wow, a multitasker would be really useful because I do a lot of turning, but I also do a lot of milling. And having 2 spindles means I could do lots of different stuff. And what sold me, it was actually an advert from DN, was like the Swiss Army knife of machines. And it couldn't actually be more true. Like really, it is not a carving knife. it is a Swiss Army knife. It will do everything pretty well. It won't carve your steak up completely, but it will do pretty close to it.
Right.
And it was December, a couple of months went past, and I was like, I would really, really like one. And I was talking to Lucas, and I said, look, I've seen the DNX, and they had a flyer out for like, I think it was 400 grand or something. And I was doing the numbers. I was like, if I sell both my machines and just have this machine, because I've also got a space constraint here. So I'm 75 square meters. So it's not a big, it's enough for two machines fit in there nice, but there was no way a mill turn was going to fit in there as well. I thought, I want to keep debt down, and that's a definite thing. I want to keep debt down. What do I do? And I looked at it, and the DNX kind of panned out. But the problem is, there's two parts that I've been doing for the last 5 years for Ross. That a large valve, plastic valve, and a large stainless steel, SAF plate, and they come up all the time, and they're good. There's good money in them, and you don't want to lose that. So I thought that's typically my largest thing. So their DNX, which is their low-cost mill turn, 4+1, 4-axis type, not full 5-sim, would have been great, 60 tools. But then Lucas said, look, we can do your deal and get the SMX. We want one in the States so we can have someone to go to and stuff like that. But it's more money. And it was December the 23rd, and I was looking at the numbers, and I was like, fuck it, I can make it work. I can make this work. This is going to be cool. I've always wanted 5-axis. So he gave me the number for the SMX, and I rang him back and said, look, let's make it happen. So I placed the order on December the 24th, day before Christmas. And
Merry Christmas to you, man. Jeez.
Yeah. The thing that crunched it, right, which was pretty cool, is I put the feelers out that my machines were up for sale. And a guy that runs all DNNs in Australia, in Perth, reached out and said, look, I want them both. I said, well, I can't sell them to you until my SMX comes in. And he says, look, I'll pay, I'll put a deposit down now, and you can use them for the next 6 months. Whatever damage happens in the next 6 months, you have to pay for. I mean, we handshake dealed on it. And so he put a deposit down, which was sizable, so I had some confidence. And then, sure enough, 6 months later, he took the two machines, paid the rest of the money. I put the SMX in, and then had to learn how to fucking use a 5-axis, which is...
Yeah, well, not only a 5-axis, but a mill turn, and that's wild, truly wild.
So it goes back to that philosophy. It's like, give it a fucking crack. What is the worst that's going to happen? And yes, the risk level is higher, but it is higher. But I was 38. Even if everything failed, it's worth giving it a crack. It really is. And if you believe in yourself, I think the world will be kind to you. So
I love it.
I believe in myself.
So I guess talk to me. Well, we can get to questions in a second here because we got a million about them. But talk to me about G-code and why you're having to learn it then with this machine. You've been hinting at it for an hour now.
So I still program absolutely everything on CAM, but because this is a failure on my point, and I'll put this out there. I didn't realize the machine would come dual channel. So hindsight's easy. I went and saw a machine like this that's in Perth, but it's a larger one that's in a complete production environment. So I went and saw the machine to make sure that it looks pretty. Really, I asked the questions about maintenance and stuff like that, but I didn't use one. And I do think that if anyone has the ability to, before they buy a machine, to go and spend a week playing on one somewhere, I think it's very much valuable before they purchase them, because you will find out quirks that probably didn't know about. And one of the quirks that I found out, I'd say the hard way, was the fact that on SMXs and most multitaskers, they're obviously multi-channel. I didn't know this. So to run a program out of Fusion, you have to split the program over two channels, and you need to hand code between them. Mm-hmm. I now need to learn very quickly why I need to know G-code and be able to read G-code, because I didn't need to know it before, because Yeah, with Fusion Sim on a 3-axis mill, it's pretty bulletproof, really.
Right.
But yeah, so G-code now for me is to be able to get the machine to do some trickiest shit, to make it, and a lot of it comes down to, for mill turns, is the clearances. So obviously you've got your head up full X away from your away from the spindle line, which is the Z-axis. And be able to do the tool changes where you need to do them and have the spindle rotated in a certain location and lock out. That's really quite difficult to do off the bat with the post-processing. You can do it, you build it in, but it does take a lot of time. And because it's dual channel, it just becomes another step harder than that. So I've spent the last couple of, last year learning about it. And it took me, hand on my heart, it took me 4 months till I felt properly confident with the machine. I got parts out. Like, I was making money out of it after a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it worked, but it was a lot harder to learn than I anticipated. If I'd gone into it knowing that it was taking me 4 months to learn, I still would have absolutely done it.
Right.
But I would have had a better idea that it was going to take that long. So it's not something you're going to learn overnight, but it is possible. I learned it by myself with help from lots of reading of manuals and taking things slow. So it worked out really well in that sense. So G-code, I've had to learn it mainly because of the multi-axis and the clearance side of things when moving the head around and making sure that you're out of the way.
Right.
Because it does have a lot of area to move in, but you can put big parts in it that you've probably seen. I've put decent sized parts in it, and knowing where you're going to go and how you fucking move the head to make sure you're clearance.
I feel like big parts is an understatement. You have done... For someone who has never touched a multitasker or never even thought about owning one, you have done some of the sketchiest looking setups I think I've ever seen. Like, they should be using your shit as demo videos for their machines of like, look, it really is the Swiss Army knife. Because, like, you can do stuff that this was definitely not built for. Like, your angled thing to put the holes in the end of the long shafts recently, like, that is so cool and so insane that you came up with that and that it worked. I'm just so incredibly impressed.
I really appreciate that. I was very, very shocked with how much traction that got. Because I've been putting videos up for the last couple of years, and it is absolutely, there's two reasons behind it. One is I just like showing cool shit and be able to record that so I remember it, because I've got a really terrible memory. And the other main thing is knowledge, because I learned so much from people like yourself and other people that are in the industry that show tidbits. It's just nice to be able to give something back, to be able to go, oh, I've done this. May not be fucking rocket science, or people might have done it 100 times. So someone maybe go, oh, that's a cool idea of doing it that way. So that's the main reason I put those videos up. But yeah,
I can promise you, nobody has done that 100 times. You are unique. I promise you. It is so cool, but it is so wild.
But it worked. It worked fantastically, man. Like,
yeah.
It's putting that jig and putting it. Obviously, we're going to get to having my latest issue, but it's not because I built that jig. That jig and how I used that worked absolutely brilliant. Like, it was amazing. Like, the tolerancing I was getting from it, and just how I now am able to do work on a shaft that's significantly longer than I would be able to do on the machine, and still use it. So I don't need a second machine to be able to go and put the end work on, so I can go and fit a 1600mm shaft in between centers. So
right.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
It's so cool. All right, well then let's get into some questions. From the Patreon, Joe Rogan Buck has a bunch about your SMX. Multi-channel posting, proving software. You shared a little bit about this, but you didn't grasp what it necessitated, given that it is a basically single-channel machine. Seems like Fusion could do collision detection for that. So, like, what is your workflow there? Because I know I had some people asking about, like, Esprit and thought that you landed on NX, but you're programming this out of Fusion, right?
Yep. So I originally did EdgeCam, moved from EdgeCam to HSMWorks, and then from HSMWorks went to Fusion. That would have been probably 3 years ago, and everything I do is in Fusion. And there's a really, really good reason for that. The cheapest cam software that I could find was like $30,000. And I struggle because I don't do massive amounts or do almost zero 5-axis surfacing. So most of the stuff is 5-axis positional and the really funky fucking deburr toolpath every now and again. But very few things I actually do. Well, I don't do surfacing like on the type of work I do. I don't need to worry about those toolpaths. And when I do, I can take a bit longer to try and find the right one for Fusion. So that works really well. So Fusion is mainly because of cost to keep that overhead down. But it's easy. Fusion is incredibly easy to use. And I'm pretty adept at using it and lying to it and getting it to do what I want it to do. So, so I did go down the route of different CAM paths, and it came down to cost. I couldn't justify spending, especially after I just spent the amount on the machine I did.
Right. So if you're on just the main spindle, is it basically just a single channel machine as long as you're not doing a sub grab and then doing stuff on the sub side?
Yeah, so as long as I'm not doing anything to do with parts catching, sub spindle, it's pretty much a single channel machine. So I can run everything out of channel 1. The problem is when I do part transfers, that becomes two channel, and the parts catch is controlled by the secondary spindle, which is like realistically, he's right. This machine could be a single channel machine, and I wish they could have brought it out as a single channel machine because it would have made my life significantly easier, be able to call up shit. But it's not. So that's one of the downfalls of it. Is it is dual channel machine, which I don't think the DNXs are. The cut down version, I think they're a single channel machine.
Oh, so what does that look like in Fusion then? If you have a sub op, are you posting those out as two separate setups and then doing the manual linking?
So I do. That's exactly what I do. So I do all. So I effectively have a whole operations on my main spindle, which is G54, and then I post out another one that's in G55, and I can splice them together into the same channel 1. But if I need to move the sub spindle up and down or get the parts catcher up, that's where I handwrite the code into the second channel and then do the weight codes between them.
Okay.
And someone's like said to me, "Oh, you just need to put a weight code." I fucking had no idea what a weight code was. So I'm like, weight codes. Yeah, I know about weight codes.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was, as I said, it took 4 months to really get sorted, because I got it installed on the July, and then I used it up to Christmas, and it was when I came home from Christmas, it was like, back from Christmas break, I was like, yeah, I've got this. So I started really stretching my legs on some of the stuff I'm doing. But within saying that, the second job I had on the machine is the longest runtime I've ever had on the machine. And that was like, I put it on a Friday and it finished on Sunday afternoon.
Right. Wow.
That was the same part, and it produced 200 of them. And the email lasted for 6 hours in the cut, and it just worked. And I came in, the fucking swarf bin was overflowing, the coolant level was right down. But I'd made 200 parts, and I was like, gold.
Yeah. So, I know that feeling all too well. Like, I know the first time I had like a successful overnight run on the Flex, I was like, oh, this is it's the closest I've ever had of like having a dream become a real reality, like with no edits. It's like, this is exactly how I pictured it, and it worked. I came in, the pallets are green, I've made all the parts. Yep. Let's go. Like, this is it. So I totally understand that. As far as collision detection, so can you run machine sim for all of the milling stuff?
Yes. So it works. It works pretty much exactly. So Fusion Sim works really well if the part's not rotating. So milling side of things, it's all right. Turning is kind of okay, but it doesn't really help with the B-axis move. And I went down the road of getting a different program. So Eureka is the company I'm currently working with, and this is there is going to be a question surely about me having a fucking mishap with my spindle.
Oh yeah, we'll get to your crazy expensive spindles. But I am very curious to hear your experience with Eureka. Somebody just recently recommended it to me, and I have been considering it.
So they, the guy I've been dealing with in the States, so it's an Italian company, Italian-German company, and the guy I've been dealing with in the States has been absolutely fantastic. They have been extremely good at what they do, and every failure of this machine is because of I've done something wrong. And what happened is I approached them to get the machine sim because they do full machine sim. And the main good thing is they can split the program through 2 channels.
Oh wow!
And so you just feed the one program in or feed it straight from Fusion into the program. They'll do the splitting the channels, and they can do the
weight codes and all that stuff.
And all weight codes and all that. So that's why I went down that way. I got that a month, 2 months ago. I said go ahead with it. Oh, sorry, a month ago, call it 6 weeks ago. I said go ahead. So they produced the first test for me to do, and I got that delivered about 3 weeks ago. Now Australia's financial year ends in end of June.
Oh.
So June for us is like pretty much May, June, July, or May, June is like mental time for us. So I've been mentally busy up to the end of that. So I haven't had any time to implement this. I probably wouldn't be sitting here with a red face going,
yeah.
So they have been fantastic, and I got the nicest email from the bloke, Sean, back, because I told him what happened, and he just said he was devastated. And he said, look, we're here to help you in any way, shape, or form. Just let us know and just get over this hump, and then we'll get back in. So they have been fantastic. The product so far, what I can see, I know I have only used it 3 times since then because I've had a bit of extra time to learn it. It's very powerful. So for a mill turn machine, I think it's fantastic. I did go down complete and I got almost nothing back from them. They're not set up for mill turns, but these guys are absolutely set up with mill turns, and their collision detection is pretty spot on.
Awesome. All right, Joe's other question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you wish you had another machine like a 3 or 5 axis VMC just for the ease of getting simple mill stuff knocked out?
7.
Okay.
Yep. I would absolutely. Probably go into this in a minute, but after all these, but absolutely would. Having a 3-axis mill would be very handy for bits and pieces.
Okay. Fair enough. His last one, your SMX versus a DNX. How much are the larger travels, spindle bore, full 5-axis, and other features worth it to you now that you have it? Would you consider buying a DNX again if you bought today?
Absolutely would buy the DNX.
Over the SMX?
Yep. 100%
Really?
would.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a reason. The reason behind that is I shouldn't have brought a machine that, for size-wise, just for the parts that I currently do. I should have brought the machine for the parts I wanted to do. The full 5-axis is fantastic. It's great, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
Like if you take if you really take back, I would probably buy the DNX.
Okay.
And I see what Donnie's doing with his, and not having full 5. If you're not going to use full 5-axis, don't fucking do it. But it doesn't mean that you can't do a full one and done part in the machine, because a 4+1 on a mill turn is fantastic. You've still got dual spindles.
Right.
You can still do 5-axis positional. Everything's still there. You just can't do the fancy fucking dance. And unless you're doing proper surfacing, in my opinion, unless you're doing proper surfacing, it's pointless having full 5-axis. A 4+1 is more than enough for 95% of parts. Yeah, so
I appreciate that.
again.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're getting on to the bummer part. Both John at the shop and Job Shopper ask him what it's like to buy a spindle worth more than my machine. John says, how many beers did it take to go from fuck my spindle to she doesn't cut so bad? So give me this. I actually had not heard this story, so I must have just been off of Instagram or something. What's going on? What happened?
So it was Tuesday morning last week. and I walked into work and I was doing those big shafts. So I'm on probably shaft number 20 something. So I've done quite a few of them. I changed. I'd gone from a different type of shaft, so I had to change the thread milling on the end of it because it was an M24 hole versus an M20, and set up the machine and went to Fusion and did the design, and I didn't simulate it. I didn't simulate the thing, and I'd simulated everything up to that point. And what I'd done is I'd picked the whole, instead of picking whole bottom, I picked model bottom.
Oh no. Oh no.
Anyone that's thread milling holes knows you start at the bottom and the whole work out. So at the same time, I had a rework situation come in where there was a flange. I'd done 20 flanges for a person, and the thread milling that I'd done, I hadn't thread gauged them, and so I didn't, one of the holes wasn't perfect, so they're having trouble putting a fitting into it. So they were coming back, and I was trying to whip them out as fast as I can to get them back. It was in half an hour job. It wasn't a big job, but I set up the part, and I was like, yeah, cool. Watch the facing operation, no worries. Watch the drilling operation, no worries. And if there's some thread mills there, happy days. What's the worst that's going to happen? The thread mill will break the thread mill off. Walked across and did the thing, and then it was at G368, so on mill turns it plane selects and then does 368 and then goes everything's off that plane. The machine has a really cool feature called an airbag feature, and it has saved my ass so many times. It's where you get if it has any slight extra load, it'll stop the machine, and it is pretty fucking good. Like it's stopped big stuff happening for like big turning operations. I can't be 100% sure of this, but it would have definitely picked us up if it was on axis. But I think because it was on 368, it was using dual servos, like because it was running thing. I don't think it could pick up on it, and it just ploughed the tool. It had a Rigafix PG15 with a 3 mil in it, and it tried to go 1 meter through a piece of 400 kilo steel. And I heard it go dunk, and I was like, fuck. And it's happened to me in the past where I've had like bumps. But it's a bump. I was like, this is bigger than a bump. And I opened the door and I looked at the holder. I said, well, the holder doesn't look too bad. Maybe I got away with this. Spun the spindle and I just heard I was like, oh no. Oh, fuck. So it was 100% my fault. Could have been absolutely preventable. I could have made effort to put the simulation software in a week and a half before and tried it. I didn't do that because I was in my head too busy. I could have simulated in Fusion. It would have picked it up. Complacency, I didn't do it. Yep. And the third fuck up is I typically always sit there with feet hold on my feet, and I walked away because I was like, no, that's cool. It's all the right heights. And I wore a spindle. So I stepped back from the job. I looked and I said, fuck. I rang Lucas, my service rep, and this goes back to what I was talking about before. I said, I fucked my spindle, and he says, nah, you haven't. I said, no, I'm pretty sure I fucked my spindle. 35 minutes later, he was in my workshop across town. He just dropped everything and came across, so he straight away came and had a look, and he said it was fucked. He called Doosan then and there. They ordered another one. So that came on, and he said, look, I said, what do I do? He says, it's fucked now, so just keep running until it falls apart. You'll be fine. It can't get any worse. Right. I had to do the job that I was doing, but at that stage, so he left, and I stood there. It was 11 o'clock, and I rang Marie, my wife, and I said, and she's like, how's your day going? I said, I had one of the worst days I've had in engineering for a very long time. And she's like, oh no. And she's like, I said, what are you going to do? Because we were going to go down and have, we always get lunch together. She said, well, should we go to the bakery? I said, no, we're going to the pub. Half an hour after that, I met Marie at the pub and had a pint and sat there. I think I had a couple of pints, but yeah, sat there and then just thought to myself, like, it was a bad day, but, we have bad days and it's okay. Yeah, and she's very, very good at making me realise that stuff. So just sitting there with her for, an hour or two, and then I went back to work and said, yep, we'll just keep ploughing on. It It was shit. It was a very bad, and that's my second spindle in 19 years, and I fucking hope to God it's not another 19 years. Fucking thing. So do simulation.
Yeah.
Because it will save you $54,000.
Oh, yeah. I have made a similar mistake, and I'm yelling at the robot to try to figure out an add-in that forces me to simulate and won't let me post and if I figure it out, I will send it your way, because it's I lucked out that all mine did was rub a PG10 and like it scrapped the holder, but like spindle was fine, machine was fine. Like machine didn't even know it was there. Like there was no alarm. It was like, oh, this is all of a sudden became a very tough material from aluminum, and it's like, but it was 100% because I switched from a left side to a right side of a part, and I found a wonderful little quirk that if you have silhouette as your containment boundary in adaptive, and you like swap the part, like I did a replace component to go to the right side, it does not warn you at all that the silhouette's invalid.
Oh, bugger.
So instead of cutting a little part with a little 1/16th, it tried to machine the whole part and was just running the tip of the holder into it the whole time. And I'm like, cool, thanks. Like I said, I lucked out. I can't complain, especially in comparison to a $50,000 spindle. But yeah, I'm currently working on that as well, because it bit me as well. I think it was midnight when I posted that program, and I was like, oh, I definitely simulated it, and went home. And it ran all the left sides overnight, totally fine. And then it switched to the right sides and broke that tool. Thankfully, I had the laser check, every tool. And so it broke that tool while it was rubbing it, and was like, nope, I'm going to kick this one out and we're done for the night. But yeah, it was just so frustrating.
Well, I think the other answer to the question, how I go from having a bad day to having a beer and having okay, is insurance. So you asked me before the redundancy thing and going down to one machine. So I took out very good quality insurance that covered me if I made a mistake. So although it's $56,000, it's not out of my pocket.
Good.
Well, we hope. They haven't paid it yet, but I had to pay it up front. But I have very good insurance for that reason, because I can sit here, even though, again, like $56,000 is not going to sink my business. I've been in business for 10 years. If I can't cover that cost, then there's something wrong. So
right.
I have redundancy for that reason, but I also protected myself. So yeah, and that's the other tip, but it's just protect yourself. Like, what are you prepared to really lose? And then maybe 10% under that, make sure that you're comfortable with what insurance is or whatever you need to do that. So
yeah. That's a very good tip. Yeah, we switched insurance companies last year, and I'm so happy with who we have now. Like I feel very comfortable with the protections that we have, and like they have a whole manufacturing focused side of their business. So like the guy who comes into my shop and is my salesman, I guess, he worked in his family shop. Like he's around my age, maybe a little younger, older, but he worked in his family shop for like 10 years. Like he comes in and he's like, I know what a mill is. I know what a cutter, like he looks at parts and he's like, these are really cool. Not just like, yeah, it's all metal to me, man. I don't give a shit. Like whatever.
Having that knowledge is important. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. John's other question was best advice you can give to someone who wants a mill turn, I guess, besides get insurance.
Yeah. Tools. Don't skimp on tools. I got 80 tools, and it's like between 60 and 80 tools, I can say comfortably for a job shop is perfect. Like you could do 60 tools, like the DNX, there's 60 tools, but I would not go for the small option. Absolutely gets a laser tool setter, or the big problem I have with mine is it doesn't auto detect like yours does for broken tools.
Oh, really?
So I don't have that on my machine. Now, I needed to get the laser option to be able to do that. They are currently working through being able to use the tool setter to come out, but because of where the tool setter comes out, they're worried that it's going to get collided with every time. I can say that it's not going to, but DN is a bit more risk averse towards that. But with the laser tool setter, it's out of the way, so you can just go and touch it. And I wish I'd known that. The other thing, conveyors. I would have absolutely put a better conveyor on my machine, not just a belt type, if it's standard belt type, because the amount of fines that you get being a mill turn, it clogs up the tank. So I would have definitely gone for a scraper, like a dual type conveyor.
I think that's a evergreen piece of advice for all machines. There is nothing more frustrating than having like floods or any kind of dumb shit that happens because you have like the $5,000 conveyor and now the $10,000 conveyor. It's like I would have happily spent $5,000 to not be banging my head against the wall every single day on this machine because of it.
Pain in the ass, man.
Yeah.
And it's like goes to the point now, like I have to clean my sump out every 6 months because the fines get so high. I don't have the coolant volume for when the 3-spindle coolant comes on properly. And I'm like, I've just filled that fucking thing up, and like, it's just drained. So yeah, those would be. Apart from like the other stuff, like I heavily invested in work holding and tools. Like PG is just to try and understand how good PG is. You have to use it. It is just like to get 6 hours out of a 16 mil ML in 1020 steel and like proper cutting. You just don't get that out of any other holder. Like PG is for me is by far the best best holder, best run out, best system that you can ask for. And then I run an SMW auto block chuck, which is the quick change chuck. Again, work holding. It's just like it's 0 point for lathes. You can move things so quickly. Work holding is important, but those are all auxiliaries to the mill turn, I suppose. But yeah, apart from work holding, I would say tooling, chip conveyor, and tool setting, which are all expensive options, but I wish I'd put them on for this sooner.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the math I always have to do with that is like you're already spending so much money. Like is it worth it to save 2% or like 5% for something that you're going to use every single day? And like at the end of the year, is it really that much more in your payments? Is it like doing that quick math even of just like, okay, over 5 years, I have 60 payments. How much more is that plus interest? And it's like, do I think I can make a couple $100 more a month or like $800 more a month by being a little more efficient? Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The quality of life is huge, but tool storage is the big thing.
That's a big one. But yeah, as far as tools go, I completely agree. I keep saying this to people, and I feel like such an entitled asshole a little bit. But like I because of the Flex now having 118, and I think I've got 70 or 80 set up in there, it's made me so avoidant of running the old C250 because I'm like, oh, I gotta go set up tools. Like this is stupid. Like I just want to run it in the machine that like I don't have to do any work. I just simulate and run it. Put the stock in and hit go. But it's just amazing. Like it really for me especially because I don't know what it is about setting tools. Like building tools has always just felt like the least efficient thing I can do, and so I've always been so avoidant of it.
It's like cleaning a house to me, having to set up tools, and I'd hate it. I hate having to set up tools.
And so it's made me so much more efficient because I'm so less avoidant of that. That task doesn't exist. It's like, oh, I've got to set one tool for this job. I'm using 30, but I need one tool. Like that's fine, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I completely agree. Let's see, Tuck's Garage. How do you come up with your awesome and crazy fixtures for your mill turn? And I did want to dive into that because like you talked about, this end work one is crazy. You've used double Lang vices that are synced across your spindles, I think. Where does all this stuff come up? Where do you figure it out? Because it's not like I can go on Instagram and see 40,000 ways to hold a 5-axis part. It's super easy for me to get inspiration of like, oh, I haven't done that little thing. The stuff you're doing, I've never seen before. So where are you figuring this stuff out?
The pub. It's either that or sitting out. Probably some of the best ideas I've come up with is with Marie sitting out the front. Well, not Marie's coming out. I'm coming out with them, but we have like an old bench seat out the front of our house. We'll sit out there and have a beer every now and again. That's my good my thinking space. I think, 'cause I'll just sit there and we'll have a chat, and then we'll just have a bit of quiet time. But it's just it's about like putting yourself in a situation where you have to find a solution. So like when I first started doing fencing, I didn't know how to do a fencing, and it's about going, yes, I can do that job. Getting the job and going, how the fuck am I going to do this job? And it comes up with that. I mean, like the lang vices between the jaws. I saw someone milling out pockets on their jaws to hold a square part, and I'm like, why the fuck are we doing that? There's a vice. The vices are way better at holding on than 3 jaws. So I'll put a vice in there. I can start holding on square parts and just using it as a mill, because I had to do some mill parts out of some square blocks. So that came out there, and then I had that long. It's got no NDA on it now, so I could actually post that. But that was a seat bracket for our police force aircraft.
Okay.
They had to redo that, and it was the first kind of aerospace type stuff I'd done. But again, I looked at that, and it was going to needed to be a couple operations on a 5-axis mill, because you probably have to hold it in the center and then be able to mill that back part enough. And I was like, well, if I hold it between 2 chucks, I'm going to get most of the rigidity I need out of that, and then I can just machine off, and then I said to them, are you okay with me linishing the edge? They had no issue with it at all. And being able to, that is 100% where a mill turn will outperform like a 5-axis mill, because I can hold it on both, and I can synchronize those, and they're properly synced. Whatever those spindles do, they're completely synced. And that thing was rigid. It was easy to get to every single part, well, reasonably easy to get to every single part. Again, the clearancing thing I was telling you about, you have to be able to get the clearance in the right place. But I think you would have struggled to get those. And there was like, I did 60 of those over a weekend, and it was the stock was cut the perfect size of the lang vices. So the person that was fitting it only had to get it within a mil. It was when they would have felt that it was out. It was easy. It was for me to be able to do that. So to come up with that, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to hold it this way. I need to hold it a long ways. I need to, and then just kind of working out through there. So the real thing is taking on stuff that kind of pushes your mind, because if you can take it on, you'll be surprised. If you push yourself, you actually come up with a solution. It might not be the perfect solution, but it doesn't need to be the perfect solution. It just needs to be a solution that gets the job done. And you build that confidence after doing maybe one little part and then the second little part, and you can build that confidence in knowing that you can think outside the box and stop thinking about how everyone else has done it and go, what happens if I did it this way? It may fail. Some of mine have failed, but...
So that was my next question. What is the most spectacular failure of one of, like, what's the weirdest thing you've done that's failed that you've had to scrap?
What's the weirdest thing that's failed? Fuck.
Because like all the ones you've shared they look at face value like this should not work. Like there's no way this is going to work. And then it works perfectly. Like it
Honest to God, I don't think I may have had to change a way I'm doing something, but it's not failed, because although they're outside the box, they're still machinable.
Right.
I think
it's still foundationally founded in things.
The ones that there's a company that I've done work with, Ace Kinetics. They do robotic stuff for like humanoid robots and stuff like that. He's the guy that runs it is just one of those fucking just mentally intelligent guys. Really nice guy. And I thought I could do one of his parts to the drawing, but it was and it wasn't even, the problem is the features were it was just not conducive of what I was doing. It would have been way better for like a 5-axis mill or even a high accuracy 3-axis mill. And the problem I was having was I thought I could hold this part and be able to get these little pins within 0.01 of a mil the whole way down. They were 3 mil pins, and they were 21 mils long.
Oof.
I had to get the wall thickness the whole way down within 0.01. And it got to the point where it was just too difficult to be able to do it in a production bar. I got through it because what I did do is I got the parts to them and they used the parts, but if hand on my heart, they weren't the best parts, because what I failed in the sense knowing that how much deflection I get on the pin. And I ended up going through a solution where I just get a boring head and doing a reverse boring bar on it, and then feeding it down. But it was a micro boring bar. It was pushing all the limits of what my machine was capable of, and it's not because of the accuracy. It's just because of how big the fucking machine is. It's a big machine. It's designed for doing reasonably big parts, and we're talking about a part that was like this big, and the features on it they had ridiculous callouts because there was a what do they call it, a hoop drive, a hump drive that we're doing, and I think that part pushed me to the point where, and it was out of 74. Oh, sorry, no, 15.5.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah, so 15.5. In the pocket, in those 3mm dowels that were 21 high, it had an M2 mil thread that went down another 5 mil inside that. So you only had half a mil wall thickness to thread mill it. It was right up there. And I look at that, and if I had a Willerman or something, that thing would have been fucking mint. I would have been able to do. But it was actually pushing the limit of the machine, like by far. And I probably shouldn't have taken on that project, but that was maybe more vanity of saying that I've done stuff for, like, that particular part was proper aerospace because it was going to one of the joints in one of the there's a test joint for one of the arms that they use for doing satellites. And
cool.
And that's the thing. It was a complete vanity thing when I look back on it. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I did it, but it took 5 times longer than I anticipated. I had to put off a whole lot of extra work. It wasn't a perfect part when I delivered it, but he was nice enough to know that I gave every bit of effort to try and do this. And so, yeah, it worked out in the end, but hindsight, probably shouldn't have done it.
Okay. Love it. EFJ Engineering says, no questions, just wants to pass on his admiration of your outrageous large shaft setup from a few weeks back. Let's see. So let's talk about turning tools. Jeff Burke said, how do you have your tool library set up for turning tools? Power Stroke Magic was also asking about post work with Fusion. Let's dive back into CAD CAM a little bit. We've talked about the milling side. Turning is not Fusion's forte anyway, and then now you're turning with a B-axis on a mill turn. How do you do it?
Bias in Fusion. I want to put a hate out for Fusion right now. Pull finger and fucking sort out 2-axis turning tools to be able to be modeled in Fusion. How fucking hard can it be?
Right.
You've got so much effort being put into 5-axis milling. If you put half that amount of effort into turning, like, it would make life so much easier, and it would probably increase the amount of people that buy machines like a multitasker, because turning tools in Fusion are horrible.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I went to Eureka. So it's near impossible to answer the question. My turning tools, when I'm turning, I don't have collision detection on my machine through Fusion. I can't simulate that. Like, I can't simulate my head moving around with a turning tool, because you can only get a 2D picture of a turning tool on a mill turn. So how I do the libraries is I have all. I'm not great with this type of stuff. I've been listening to Zach and Justin on their
down the rabbit hole. Yeah,
this, which has been fantastic. Great addition, I'd say. They're talking about having different libraries. So I do this similar. So I have a library for steel, like 4140 stainless. There's 2 types of stainless. There's aluminium and plastic. Yeah. So I have like there's six different libraries with every single tool set up exactly the same, but just different speeds and feeds. That's how I do it. With turning tools, it's exactly the same. It's just all they're on those 6 libraries. They're all got all the geometry, but I just can't simulate any of it. Hence the reason going to Eureka, because Eureka actually, you can either pull tools from Fusion, or you can have your entire tool library in Eureka, or you can have a combination of both. So, for instance, if I want to keep my milling tools up to date, I can pull them from Fusion, but I just say anything that is all turning comes out of the Eureka library, which is the standard tools that I have, which they can take all the 3D models from, like Sandvik or anyone like that, and just put them straight in. So you have the full body of the tool and know you're going to have collisions or not, which is fantastic. Would have been good if I put it in practice, but
yeah.
Tuning sucks in Fusion, and they just need to pull finger. It would not take that much time to sort it out. Mm-hmm. I don't need the full sim on a mill turn. I just need to have actual turning tools be able to be loaded in as 3D models.
I mean, to be fair, we don't even have proper thread mill modeling yet, let alone turning tools. So let's fix all of it if we're just gonna talk about it. I would love that. Yeah, or like a corner champ for end mill. It'd be cool to have that type of tool.
They're just seeing some basis. It feels like Fusion's just gone hell to leather for 5-10 years, and then it's just like this. It seems like they're adding shit that doesn't need to really be added at the moment. They're like adding the amount of updates you get. You go, fuck. Maybe don't change the UI around here and just put some little bit more effort into this, where it will make a huge difference on the floor. It's like they want to make the software look really awesome, but the focus has not been, in my opinion, on maybe where they could have.
Quality of life.
And I only know what I can see on the outside, so they may have some big plans on the inside, and good on them. But at the moment, fuck, I'd love some turning tools.
I totally understand it. As a user without visibility in there, it's so frustrating to see like the easy stuff get left on the table, and then you're like, oh well, but I got an AI assistant that I'm never going to use, so that's cool. And I understand that it's different development pipelines and different teams and all of it. Like I understand that development of one feature does not necessarily mean no development on another, but it's still just very frustrating. Yeah. Joel St. John says, how much power does your machine actually draw? Like full dance on the machine with that many spindles. What does that thing draw down?
This is really interesting. So I'm on 440 volts. So the machine is supposed to be on a 200 amp breaker. I run it on 50. No
way.
So I have 63 amps that come into my building. Into my allotment, right? So 63 amps. The building's split into two with me and my brother. So my brother runs full 3-phase welders and big 350 amp welders.
Mm-hmm.
We both have aircon. I've got 3 aircons on my side. He's got 2. I've got the mill turn. I've got the Kaiser compressor, plus all the cylinder equipment that goes around that. In the height of summer, all aircons running. My mill turn running full bit, and him welding or doing TIG welding. Never propped a breaker, ever.
No way.
The mill turn I had on, I'm doing those shafts at the moment, and it's sitting at 135% spindle load, taking a 5 mil depth of cut in 4140, and it's never broken. Pop the breaker at 50 amps, 3-phase. Oh, it's 50 amps, 440. So what's that? Double that. So 100 amps at 220.
Right.
So never done it. So I understand why they rate these machines, but I do think what they should do is be like do a fair and reasonable. Because what's the point of putting in $20,000 worth of power upgrades and stuff like that? I understand you've had to do it because of things. It's not.
I did the reverse thing where I didn't have enough power, so I understand both sides of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like for instance, like Haas machines, they want it on a 30 amp breaker. I ran all those on a 20 amp breaker on my machine. So I think what they should do is go, hey, at full load, your machine's going to draw 200 amps if you peak load every single thing, and it's going to pop your breaker. But in a reasonable load, this is what you can expect, and maybe you might want to put a bit extra fat in there. But because there's a lot of people that go around, I can't put that machine in because it's too big.
Right.
And I have to say that potentially was going to be me, but with the fact that the DNM that I had was when that was all loaded up and that was still running on a 20 amp breaker, I knew that the machine was no way was going to draw that, and that so I decided to run the gauntlet, and I only had 50 amps on that one circuit, and it worked. So
awesome.
And it's never popped the breaker. It's, as I said, on 63 amps, I've never popped a breaker with all my gear running. So 50 amps or less, you can run the SMX. I don't have a lower turret though, so maybe the lower turret might put it over. But I've had both spindles, which are they're 22 kilowatt. They're fucking huge. They're massive direct drive motors on both of those spindles, so they use shitloads of power when they spin up. Never had them pop. So
awesome. That's really, really good to know. All right, last one, and this kind of leads into some of the last questions. Cameron, Machining is Cool, says, how many hours of work a week are you down to?
So at the moment I was at 32. I've gone back up to 37. So I know that to the hour because I record all my hours every week.
Smart.
So I know. Yeah. So I do applaud people to do that too. So I just got a Google spreadsheet that I just chuck one number in a day. I work 7 hours, I work 7.5 hours, whatever. So I know exactly what I work just so that I can gauge where I am at. He says that because we've had chats about probably what's coming out, but I'm fastidious about trying to get work-life balance, and I'm sitting at 37 now because I've got a big week, but I want to get back down to 32, but that's going to significantly drop in the next year if my plan works out. So well, do you want to talk about that now? I suppose work-life balance, or
Yeah, sure. Work-life balance. What does it mean to you? How do you manage it? Is it any different from 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, so it's definitely different. I've always tried to have a decent work-life balance from day dot. So having the 4 days a week at 10 hours a day gave me weekends off. Having working away gave me weeks off when I got home. So work-life balance for me has meant a lot. It's probably meaning a lot more now for a couple of reasons. One, I'm really seeing that my kids are getting older. So my youngest daughter's turned 10. My oldest boy just turned 14. 14. So they have got 10 years. It's cool, my youngest daughter's 10. So they've got between 6 and 8 years that I have left to actually make some type of impression on them.
Right.
Because by the time my daughter turns 18, that she's not going to, she'll want to know me, but she won't give two shits what dad really thinks. So it's become really prevalent between that and also the fact of I've had quite a few people around me in the last couple of years things happen where people have become ill, become not being able to work. A lot of stuff that's happened at people that have got to retirement age and then curled over. We've all heard stories like this, but it really sits with me. So this is going to be very crazy to talk about. I was half and half really going to talk about this, but in the last 6 months, I've got the SMX. So I got the SMX, and I was in a certain part of life, but I was able to do reasonably well with my partner with some investments, and it meant that money is not as important in the sense we don't need as much of it. So and that came off a little bit earlier than I anticipated. So I anticipated having the SMX for 4 to 5 years before, and that gave me the work-life balance to be able to be with the kids, and that would be the case because I'm still being able to pull in a decent chunk of money with one machine, working 32 hours a week. So I can have a very comfortable life. But I think I'm going to take that a little bit more extreme in the next 6 to 12 months. And because of what happened with the spindle and the stress levels that put me on me, and a couple of other clients that have, there's a couple of other jobs this year that have gone not as nicely as I'd like them to. The stress levels definitely showed it. And I made the decision as of the thing is I'm actually going to wind down almost completely. So
No way.
yeah, so I was half an hour to talk about this on here, but people judge me as they want, but I'm going to be as honest and open as I can. So I've come to the realization that one, that I've only got about 8 years left to spend with my kids in the sense of actually giving them my time, being there before school and after school, taking them to all the activities, and having 5 kids or 4 kids that live with me currently. That's a lot of activities and a lot of stuff. So it's a lot of life. The other fact is I turned 40 and call this midlife crisis, and this could be my Ferrari, but I've got probably 15 years of like really good quality, like get out there and do stuff with my body, right? And 65, 70, you're going to start slowing down. I'll still be going for walks until, but I mean, getting out there and doing surfing, getting out there and you know, being active and pushing yourself and stuff like that. So I think that's, well, not think, I know that I'm going to take what I would call a semi-early retirement. And my plan is in the next 6 months is I'm actually going to wind down the business to I only work 3 days a week and only school hours. And that will mean I will be selling up the premise that I'm in currently, most likely selling the SMX, and I will be building a workshop at home to work from home with 2 very small machines in a very, very small workshop. So Steelco won't be going away, but it's going to absolutely change. And by doing all that, I will release enough debt over top of my head to be near on debt free with my wife, and we can almost have no cost to live. And then I can just put the 2-3 days a week that I earn to still have the similar lifestyle, but reducing debt completely and reducing the stress completely, and just enjoying the next 10 years. Because I figure that I can do this if I could wind down and work 2 to 3 days a week, 20 hours a week or less, and still have a good, comfortable life. If I make it till I'm 65, I can still start working more if I wanted to back then. Money's not a massive driver for me, and I think that's because I've become a lot smarter with money over the last 10 years and realized money is fucking nothing compared to like actually experiencing, enjoying your life and enjoying time with your kids. So it's going to be a big change, and I know it might seem to people that it's a bit of a flip-flop buying this massive machine and maybe potentially moving it back on, but things change.
I mean, if anybody's judging, like that is, at least to me, that's the dream. Like that's why you own your own business, is to have that kind of freedom. And the fact that you're able to realize that, like, there should be zero judgment there. Like that's truly amazing that you're in that position, man. I'm so incredibly excited for you.
Well, I really appreciate that. It's a massive decision, but it was made easier with the stress levels that caused because of what just happened. I've been thinking about how I could do this for pretty much since I left working in my workshop. So that whole working from home type thing, that's been a theme for my entire life. Like people working from home, I starting from home. I love the idea, Patrick and stuff starting his workshop. The information I've been giving him, or the advice is just keep it small, keep it low debt, and just enjoy it. Because if you can have a business that affords you a lifestyle that's whatever you want, then that's great. My lifestyle just happens to be quite. It's not lavish at all. If I can afford to go to the pub and order any dinner I want for the whole family once every couple of weeks, and be able to take the kids on a holiday a couple of times a year, like that's for me is I've made it. So, so by mainly reducing debt on my factory and the machine as well, but then I'm looking pretty much at a mill and a lathe and putting them into a shed, but I'm really constricted on space, so it has to be 1.6 meters wide, so it reduces the lot that you can buy. But I've got a couple of machines, and I'm talking to, again, looking at overseas. I'm looking at some machines in the States. So if anyone's in South Carolina, they don't mind going and look at a machine, let me know, because I've got something I need to look at that.
Amazing.
But yeah, so that's my plan. So in 6 months' time, I may be in a completely different situation, and you might be seeing more videos of me jumping in a pool out the backyard of my house. But yeah, that's where I'm going. I'm trying to slow down and enjoy the next 10 years with my kids and my partner. And if after that they fly the coop and then time affords me and I may start building back up or something. I don't know. But I'm going to go and enjoy the next 10 years at a slow-paced lifestyle. And so if I do fall over when I'm 65 or 50 or whatever, when some of these people I've had around me literally pass away, at least I know that I've enjoyed some of it, and I'm not waiting until I'm fucking 65 to retire and enjoy money when my body's fucked because I've used it and abused it.
Right.
So yeah, so that's what work-life balance. So much so that I'm prepared to change everything for it.
I love it. I truly, truly love it. As someone who doesn't have a good work-life balance, I think for me that is very aspirational, and like it gives me a good guiding star of like, because I would love to end up at something like that as well. So I totally understand that.
Could be a fucking fail. I could fall on my ass, so we'll find out.
Well, like you said, then you just start over, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's the worst? I'm 40-year-old. I can recover from it.
Exactly. All right. One cam, metrology, or business tip or trick that helped you this week?
Use simulation.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. use if you can afford it, make sure you got good sim.
Yeah.
Although I have really good insurance and I'm going to walk away from this okay, I wouldn't have had to walk away from this if I'd actually taken the time and put in the sim in front. So
Right.
learn from my mistake and just do it. Like I know we all simulate, or we all should simulate, and most of us all simulate our jobs and stuff like that. It's really good, but if you can improve on that, that's where I think technology is well worth doing. So if it's in additional software or just improving the software you use, spend the time on that.
For sure.
That's what I am doing.
I love that. All right. What's one thing that doesn't really pencil out that you've bought that you wouldn't be without? So for reduced aggravation, fatigue, aversion, what's one thing that you technically business-wise should not have bought, but that you are happy you did?
I bought it through my business, but it's really not for business, even though if the tax department asked, it was for business. A bobcat.
That sounds like a business purchase. Yeah.
100%.
How could they find any
most-
issue with that?
Most enjoyable I've ever had. Probably doesn't really pan out, but yeah, bobcat.
Okay. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. Last up then, what have you been researching this week? Doesn't have to be manufacturing related. Just it's always cool to see what cool people are researching.
Well, to be honest, it is completely work-based, and that is 100% machines. So I've been doing lots and lots of research on what would a workshop look like if I was to, I wasn't, I am doing this, what the workshop would look like if I was to go back to a 4-axis mill and Y-axis lathe. So I've been putting a lot of thought and effort into how that would look, council side of things, and doing designs for sheds and so forth, and doing lots of numbers. So it's around machines, which is probably going towards more Doosan again.
Okay.
Because I'm used to it, but it's probably going to be a lot from the States, because you guys have a excess amount of machines around there, and it's very difficult to get good second-hand equipment in Australia.
Really? I had no idea.
Extremely difficult, yeah. So if you're never going to, I found a mill that I'm looking at, as I said, in South Carolina, that's 2019 DN 4000, which is 1.6 meters wide, so it fits down the side of the house. It's still 3.5 ton and big plastic cat spindle, so it's still going to have. It's not going to be a robo drill type. I have to go back to a robo drill in a heartbeat, but
Right.
doing a lot of research onto those type of things.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
I love that. Very cool. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for joining me for 2.5 hours. I'm really glad we got to dive into everything. It's been a ton of fun.
I waffled way too much.
Not at all. No, I really, really appreciate you diving so deep in and being so forthcoming with everything. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, and if I learned so much from other people. So if anyone has any questions, then just reach out. I'm more than happy to have a chat with people, and whatever knowledge I have, I'm happy to have a yarn about, because I think that's the one thing I haven't captured on is the fact that I just wish we all paid it forward a bit more. And like for you doing this podcast is definitely your way of paying it forward. And if we just pay forward a bit more information, a bit more kindness to people, I think like this would be just such a nicer world. But also machining in general, we've got so much information we could just pass to each other, and what's it going to cost us? A text? It's fuck all. So. Exactly.
I completely agree. Well, give people, where can they find you online?
Pretty much Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel where all my ancillary type bits and pieces I've built, boats and container houses and stuff, but mainly Instagram is where I post most of this shit.
Okay.
So,
I'll make sure to link to both then in the show notes. Well, thank you again. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks to all the Patreon members who make the show possible. And I will be back next week.